In a world where strength and power are the only means to prove oneself, there was one man who stood as an exception, existing like a legend. He was the one who broke rules and norms with nothing but a spear, a knight who seemed to have reached the realm of a true master, an unparalleled spear knight. He was a great hero, the knight who forced the war in the kingdom of Avalon to cease, known as the strongest on the continent of Igrant, with the resounding name Joshua Sanders. A voice filled with mockery echoed, "Just think, an almighty unparalleled knight like that, having to suffer death." The man named Joshua, who was considered a legend, was now kneeling on the ground, his mouth endlessly vomiting blood, his face twisted in agony. A mage stood with a group of others. He looked at Joshua in despair and sneered with ridicule. Such a helpless state. Joshua barely managed to force himself up, gasping for breath, his body racked with 1,000 waves of pain. His trembling voice asked, "Why?" The group looked on with delight at the sight. Then one of them casually replied, "You are the one who made his mana rise to its maximum limit." He turned his gaze to Joshua and continued, "The incompatibility between dark power and divine power is now clashing inside your body." Another one stepped forward, approaching and looking down at him with arrogance, continuing, "If you were an ordinary person, you would surely already be dead from the conflict." Hearing that, Joshua staggered and fell to his knees, screaming in pain. He raised his eyes to look at them, hatred filling his gaze, his mouth repeatedly asking, "Why?" He slammed his fist hard against the cold ground, his body trembling with rage. He refused to accept such an end. Thoughts and waves of exhaustion flooded him, weighing down his heart. "I have never once thought of seizing the throne, never once thought of becoming a ruler. All my life I only wanted to show the greatness of this spear, only wanted to escape the dull life of being the son of a concubine, and remain loyal to my king, who was also my dearest friend, to bring an end to the civil war that tore the kingdom apart. I only wished to serve as a shield to protect my king for the rest of my life." The man Joshua spoke of, the one he called his friend, was none other than the exalted king of Avalon, Kaiser Van Britten, who not only did nothing to stop it, but watched Joshua writhe in despair. Joshua once again struggled to rise, his voice trembling. "Then why?" The mage who had mocked him before stepped in front of him and said, "Joshua, there are some people whose very existence is considered a threat to the world." His name was Evergrant, a mage of the magic tower. He looked at Joshua with cold eyes, his presence radiating murderous intent. Because the civil war had ended, the king already had his position secured. He could now plan to take whatever he desired without fear of anything, and the only fear the king had was you, Joshua. Hearing those words from his mouth plunged Joshua into despair, his eyes filled with the pain of betrayal. Seeing Joshua silent, Evergrant continued, "Even when a warrior clings to the mana he has gathered throughout his life, spending decades sharpening a dagger into a sword overflowing with power." He fixed his gaze on Joshua's spear, forcing Joshua to look at it too. "However, for a knight, even if people were piled upon each other, you could still accomplish such feats with that energy. How many enemies have you struck down with that spear?" His words made Joshua grit his teeth in fury. Evergrant held his orb in his hand. It emitted a strange green aura, and he said, "No, I know that you have reached a new height of power." Suddenly Joshua clutched his chest and collapsed, his scream of agony echoing as a bone-piercing pain overwhelmed him. With his battle-hardened experience, he immediately realized there was something wrong with Evergrant's orb. The green aura it released grew darker and stronger, and that orb was found in the ruins of Ammon. While he writhed in suffering, another figure approached. His voice sounded right above Joshua's head. "I feared greatly that dreadful spear." A man clad in iron armor looked down at him, continuing, "That it could one day slice my head off. I have often feared so much that I harbored insane thoughts." Seeing him, Joshua grew even more furious, but his body was utterly powerless, unable to resist. He glared at them with hatred, his teeth grinding. Then Joshua collapsed, exhausted and weary. He cried out in despair, but they acted as if they did not hear. Evergrant calmly said, "Thank you for everything up until now." He paused, then continued, "We would not be here now. He bent over Joshua, who was writhing in pain, his tone carrying mockery. "We are truly very grateful to you." Then he looked at Joshua with the eyes of a victor and said, "Farewell, my good friend." Joshua was completely crushed by Evergrande's power. Lying helpless on the ground, he could only look at them with burning rage, wishing he could tear them to pieces. King Kaiser, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly looked at Joshua with eyes of disgust. He said, "I cannot stand by and watch any longer the final moments of my dear friend." With that, he turned his back and left, never once looking back. Joshua shouted from behind in fury, the pain of betrayal overwhelming his mind, forcing out a sound full of despair and hatred. "Kaiser Van Britten, this is not my end." The group left with a sense of victory and satisfaction, leaving Joshua in that dark forest. As he neared death, a magic circle with blue light appeared beneath Joshua. He immediately recognized it and felt a bit of hope for life. The circle detonated. With his current ability, he had 5 minutes. He slammed his hand hard on the ground, his mind wanting to scream again. How meaningless! What undefeated spear knight! Such a ridiculous title. In the end, what is it? Just a lowly knight betrayed by the one he trusted and dying on an unnamed field. With his last strength, he poured everything into it, determined to shout one last time, "Damn it." His little strength also created a great wind. His spear, which had been thrown far, suddenly moved. He glanced and whispered, "Lugia," the blood-stained blade known as the death on the battlefield, Lugia. Seeing the chance, Joshua seized it. He laughed loudly, the laughter echoing everywhere. Then he thought to himself, "I once thought it could create some special spells, but never imagined it would have to create that spell." He shouted again, in this case. His blazing spear lay very close to Joshua. He reached out a little more. After a while, he grasped his spear. His eyes darkened as if calculating something important. Then suddenly the ground where he lay rose and cracked. A blinding light shone from the fissure, and in an instant the ground exploded. A beam of light burst from the explosion, illuminating a wide area, accompanied by a painful howl. The moon finally rose high, its red light making the surrounding space even more desolate. After Joshua's explosion, a huge crater appeared because of the blast. Those things reflected Joshua's despair. A distinct person in the land of knights, the kingdom of Avalon, Joshua Sander, met an untimely death unbefitting his title, the undefeated spear knight. It seemed everything had ended there. But no, a piercing scream rang out, "Open your eyes again." Joshua had returned to the years when he was a child. That boy Joshua looked around, the scene somewhat familiar but also strange to him. The pile of straw. Where is this? What happened? He could not believe his eyes, hurriedly checking the memory in his head. The scene of being blown away by the explosion was still imprinted in his mind. He should have been blown to pieces. How? Why are my hands so small? Then he seemed to understand something. His face showed panic. Could it be? Joshua ran quickly to the well. Seeing himself in the water, he could not help but be bewildered. He had been deeged. To be exact, Joshua had been reborn. He also seemed to realize. He looked around then thought, "No, this is the place I used to live." Every flower bush, every horse in the stable, the surrounding scene finally made Joshua understand. He had returned to the past. Realizing this, he smiled slyly. How interesting. Joshua clenched his fist, smiling triumphantly, murderous intent radiating from him. I have been given a rare opportunity. Joshua clenched his fist, his eyes full of his usual confidence. Suddenly 3 nearby soldiers stepped forward and ordered him, "Hey, why don't you go scoop the horse manure? What are you standing there for?" Joshua recognized them at a glance. These men might be soldiers of Duke Agnes, the 3 captains Rawls, Royd and Gort. Royd, feeling insulted, cursed at him. "You better answer my question, kid." Rawls stepped forward to mediate, but in fact was mocking Joshua. "Royd, have you forgotten? He's mute. Of course he can't answer." They had no idea that only Joshua understood the truth. He was only acting mute, because if he uttered even half a word he would be beaten. Meanwhile Gort looked around searching. "It seems like Lucia isn't here." Rawls immediately stopped him. "Shut your mouth. Do you want the Duke's household to hear? She's being watched 24/7. If you keep shouting that name Lucia like that. Joshua's heart tightened remembering her silhouette. My mother, Lucia. Apart from the Agnes household servants. I am the illegitimate child of a servant, the woman forced to sleep with Duke Agnes. That's why these soldiers knew I was a bastard. They bullied me because I bore the blood of a servant, and these soldiers took pleasure in that. Especially the three in front of me. So there will be a day I will settle all these debts. Royd put his arm around him teasingly. Today I suddenly miss Lucia so much. Somehow, Rawls. He tapped his shoulder to remind him. Anyway, shut your mouth. Royd, if someone hears we'll be in trouble. Royd hardly cares. You're overthinking. Who would be in this stinky stable except that brat? Rawls hesitated a bit about this matter. Even so, Royd recalled some interesting remarks. Duchess Vanessa also said if we quietly get rid of Lucia and that brat, she will take responsibility for us. This is a good opportunity. Too bad we couldn't find Lucia. He nodded in agreement. You're right. Then he stared at Joshua with a crazy intent. Now what can we do? Of course, play with this brat without Lucia. Rawls also had some ideas and agreed. Joshua was furious until his eyes reddened. I will do something for her. You, who insult my mother, I will not let you run rampant, you bastard. His hands clenched as spiritual power spread strongly from them. Joshua closed his eyes in anticipation. Would it work? The mana training method he had practiced, and afterward Joshua became different from normal people. It was the training method he discovered with Luja in the ruins. The important thing is, the basics of this mana training method is that it is completely different from the others. It does not follow the traces or use mana in the lower abdomen mana rod. Instead it uses the fragments of energy already present around. It is not limited by the mana rod, the reservoir of mana. Joshua's entire body could absorb mana, and he could concentrate mana where he wanted and use it immediately. For mana users, creating mana is a process everyone must go through. Because Joshua did not need to go through that year-long process to achieve it, it was inevitable that he would start off like a mana user. Gort charged forward first, gave that one a punch, brother. My blood started boiling seeing that face. Royd sneered, looks like you're just jealous. When Gort could easily court that woman, stabbed in the heart, the man shouted, shut up, not that. He rotated his shoulder preparing. Hey, seems I'm about to contain it all. Joshua stood there silently saying nothing. He was still sensing. Gort, seeing no fearful reaction from him, was puzzled. What's wrong with him? Faint standing up. Royd looked over amused. Really, he looks like a dry statue. Meanwhile, Joshua concentrated and circulated his energy. Only gathering mana in his palms, he only needed to gather mana in his palms. Before returning, Joshua had spent nearly 10 years just gathering mana in his palms, but now he knew what he should do. Joshua opened his eyes suddenly, his will rising to a peak, if that's the case. Then, Gort felt a bit wary when he met that determined gaze, his face twisted into an ugly grimace. Terrified, he stammered, You little rat. With that he swung his club mercilessly. How dare you glare at me? At that moment, spiritual energy had gathered fully in Joshua's hand. He delivered a devastating punch. Gort's eyes widened. His mouth puffed up as the breath was forced out of him. Gort clutched his stomach in pain, lying on the ground in total defeat. On the other side, Royd was agitated, wondering what was wrong with him. What just happened? Joshua focused on sensing the magical power inside his stomach. It felt like a disgusting, slimy lump. Beneath his belly, there should have been nothing there. But now, unable to control his emotions, Royd grabbed the sword at his waist. He drew it out sharply and cursed Joshua. Are you tired of living, you bastard? A weary drop of sweat was already rolling down Joshua's cheek. This small body simply did not have the strength to resist. But if I can defeat Royd, who is charging at me, then perhaps Rawls will not dare to approach me, because he is smarter than the other two. Thinking that, Joshua clenched his fist with hope. Just one more time. Royd charged in while cursing in rage. Today is your death day. I'll send you to meet your ancestors. Unfortunately for him, his strike missed completely. Joshua stepped back. taking a close combat stance and punched upward. Right after, he gathered all his remaining strength and struck Royd with a fierce blow. Royd not only spat blood but was thrown several meters away, making Rawls anxious. He collapsed right where he had started, in front of Rawls' eyes. Rawls frowned in fear and turned to look at him. He muttered to himself, "Unbelievable, this mute. He has been hiding his skills. The first time could have been coincidence, but not twice." Joshua's body began trembling from exhaustion. I never knew it would hurt this much. The consequence of using such a large amount of mana. Rawls had climbed to the position of captain partly through cunning and partly through talent. Though he was not as strong as Gort or Royd, he was still dangerous in single combat, especially against Joshua in his current state. "But I cannot reveal my weakness," Joshua thought, then shouted proudly, "Do you have any last words?" Hearing him speak, Rawls was shocked as if encountering something alien. He pointed and questioned furiously, "You can talk?" To add weight to his words, Joshua stepped forward threateningly. "From this moment on, captains like you and all the bastards who insulted my mother." His eyes burned with determination as he declared, "I swear under my own name." Rawls' face went pale at those powerful words. "Not a single one will survive." He instantly fled, even shouting, "Monster!" Only then did Joshua begin gasping for breath after 2 long battles. His vision blurred, space itself seemed to warp. Damn it! Joshua collapsed, his face hitting the cold ground. He could only wheeze weakly, his whole body limp and unmoving. His vision darkened, sweat poured endlessly, and he nearly fainted a second later. A while later, that sensational news spread everywhere and quickly reached the Duke's residence. In front of the hall, 3 men were talking about it. One of them spoke up. "Have you heard the news, Joshua? The mute boy who lived in the stables knocked out 3 captains. Did you know that?" Brown quickly replied, "I heard, and there are even rumors that he was only pretending to be mute." The oldest of the 3 stroked his chin in thought. Young Master Joshua, the half-brother 5 years younger than young Master Babel. He did that. How strange. The man waved his arms and laughed mockingly. "Do you really believe that it is just a rumor? He is just an orphan. And how could someone mute suddenly wake up one morning able to speak? Think about it. How could he defeat 3 captains bare-handed?" The old man offered another perspective. "I know, but if that really happened, then the plan for Duke Agnes' successor might be changed." While he was busy showing off his wisdom, the door behind them moved slightly. Even if Joshua's skills were acknowledged, he could never surpass young Master Babel. You all know that. The other agreed readily. "I also believe that, because young Master Babel already possesses mana." He continued to reason. "Exactly right, Brown. Duke Agnes himself only awakened mana at 16 when he gained the title of Master. But young Master Babel, at only 14, already wields mana. That proves he is a genius, though the shadow of Duke Agnes is too great. For him, perhaps it is a trial to become the successor. How foolish." Just as he was boasting proudly, he suddenly saw him standing there. "Young Master Joshua, since when have you been here?" Joshua did not reply but commanded, "Go and tell the Duke that, by the Duke's summons, I, Joshua von Agnes, am here." At the same time, elsewhere with Arden, Rawls was reporting the matter. Arden stared at him for a long while before asking, "So you are Rawls?" Unable to hold back his emotions, he cried out, "Yes, my name is Rawls." Arden, still working on his records, asked probing questions. "From which battalion are you?" Sweat poured from Rawls like rain in fear. "The 29th Battalion." Arden turned to Chiffin to confirm. "The 29th Battalion, near Griezmann, right, Chiffin." He nodded in acknowledgement. "Yes, my lord." Arden gestured with 2 fingers. "Understood. To bring that shirt here." The twisted, stretched shirt belonging to Gort was presented for inspection. Still somewhat doubtful, Arden asked again, "So what you mean is that Joshua was the one who did this to the shirt?" Chiffin stood close and threatened. "Think carefully before you answer. You know the consequences of lying, right?" Rawls flinched. "Yes." Rawls insisted. "This is not a lie, my lord." Arden gathered opinions from all sides. "Chiffin, What do you think? He pressed. Of course, it is hard to believe this, my lord. He slightly agreed with that view. Yes, hard to believe how old Joshua is this year. Chiffin replied firmly, 9 years old, my lord. Arden made conjectures, at that age, with bare hands, to damage armor so badly. Then if Joshua can use mana, it would be a small matter. Chiffin immediately denied it. My lord, that is impossible. Only 9 years old and able to use mana. That is something unheard of in history. Never happened before. Even if it were a high-tier skill appearing, he would have to be at least a high-rank B knight to do that bare-handed. Maybe then something similar could occur. But young Master Joshua is only 9. I do not believe he did this. I think they are afraid of being caught bullying young Master Joshua, so they foolishly came up with this story. If you allow, I will immediately drag him out and straighten out the troops. Rawls, upon hearing that, began to tremble. No, it is true. Chiffin, angered, grabbed the sword hilt ready to deal with Rawls. How dare you speak loudly in front of him? Confess now. Rawls stepped back a few urgent steps. It is the truth, please believe me, Captain Chiffin. Chiffin, out of options, drew his sword, making his face go pale. At this point, he still spits out lies. Arden stopped the conflict. Enough, Chiffin. He would not accept. But my lord, spare the one who spread the false rumor. He stood up and made a final decision. The matter will be resolved if we meet the person in question. It has been a long time since I met that child. I will personally go see that child. Surprise showed on Chiffin's face. The Duke personally meeting the son of a concubine. He never fulfilled anything for young Master Babel, who is said to have great potential. Arden asked him, "Where is Joshua?" Chiffin reported back. "I heard he went to the main house and was waiting in the antechamber," saying that the two went to where Joshua was. I understand. Leading the way to Chiffin. Yes. A few minutes later Babel was strolling around there and happened to pass by this wing. He was startled as if seeing something alien. What? Joshua? Why is he here? Finishing his thought, Babel asked, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He did not answer and almost ignored Babel. The only thing Joshua thought of at that moment was Marcus Van Britten, the reigning king. Whenever he looked at that portrait, he felt very angry. Kaiser Van Britten, no matter what, I must take revenge. After being ignored for a few minutes, Babel felt insulted. "Hey, you bastard of a family, you dare give me butter," saying that he intended to punch Joshua, but Joshua had noticed. With only a few slight movements, he blocked the weak attack. Moreover, Joshua's palm made several cracking sounds like bones breaking. Babel thought to himself about the incident. This strength. Could the rumor about defeating 3 captains really be true? Joshua kept focusing power into his palm and thought, "Do you think I will just stand still?" Suddenly Arden stepped in and broke the fight. "What are you doing?" Babel was startled and cried out, "Father." Regaining his composure, he quickly greeted, "Greetings to the Duke." Arden repeated, "I asked what you are doing here." Babel excused himself. "We were exchanging greetings." Arden glanced at him curiously. "Greetings." Joshua, not knowing what else to do, could only nod to let the matter pass. Chiffin, watching from behind, felt pained. This one is crazy, not kneeling to greet the Duke. Thinking that, he commanded, "You are showing disrespect to the Duke. Greet him now." "What are you doing?" "Not greeting." Arden gestured for Chiffin to step back. Speaking in defense, that gaze, filled with loathing. Hearing his name suddenly called, Joshua was startled but kept a blank face. He reminded himself to suppress it, because that portrait reminded him of someone, and so the anger had begun to explode. Joshua could no longer control it. He resolved himself, trying to relax his face. This cannot continue. Arden would never allow anyone to defy him, not even the king. But contrary to the fury Joshua expected, Arden waved his hand and signaled, "If you are calm now, then come here. I will personally confirm whether you truly have mana or not." Babel, hearing that, was shocked and turned abruptly. "What is this, mana? That wretched one, the stable boy who cleaned dung every day, does that mean he has mana?" Chiffin intended to stop it. "Duke, to let you do this." But Arden cut him off without concern. "Chiffin, come here." Joshua was still hesitant in his thoughts. Duke Arden, one of the 5 mana masters of this vast empire, a man very sensitive to mana. If he notices anything unusual, my plan will be ruined. Before Joshua realized it, he had already grasped his hand, since when? Golden light radiated from his palm, making Arden exclaim in shock. What? It forced even Joshua tensed and thought, if the Duke, who is sensitive to mana, discovers something I do not know, I will have to come up with a new plan. Arden muttered mysteriously, nothing, what? Then he released his hand and concluded, there is no mana. Babel immediately turned with a smug smile. I knew it. Chiffin nodded, so the matter of young Master Joshua having mana is confirmed false. But Arden suddenly interrupted. I am not talking about the mana rod. Then Arden explained, all living things in this world inherently contain mana, and that applies to ordinary people and even magical beasts. However, I could not sense mana inside Joshua. Hearing that they reconsidered, truly could not sense mana, meaning he is no different from an empty corpse. Chiffin stroked his chin and thought, if that is the case, what if he was born with a body that cannot hold mana? I have never heard of such a case. Arden suddenly toyed with the mana in his hand. If it is not innate, I can sense something on the mana rod, a disgusting sticky feeling that makes me feel revulsion. Then he made a declaration, so from now on. Arden's lips curled clearly, I will keep an eye on Joshua. Chiffin quickly interjected, my lord, does that mean, if Joshua was born unable to hold mana, do you not think those rumors are false? We cannot allow those men to spread such rumors. He replied sternly, soldiers are also the Duke's assets. It would not be wise to punish them just for false rumors and reduce our resources. He bowed his head in apology. I was too hasty. He then turned the subject to the boy. Joshua, you will stay here for a while. Is there any vacant room? This decision stunned Babel, but, my lord, Joshua cannot. Arden's face darkened. Babel, is there a problem? He hastily retracted his words in a dejected tone, and no, my lord. Then he called to Chiffin. Chiffin. He responded quickly, yes, my lord. The order from him was given. From now on, train Joshua to become a knight. And if you see that Joshua has talent, teach him the Zich mana training method. He showed a clear look of bewilderment. What? A mana training method? But not the young master's mana. Yet Arden decisively turned away. We need time. We will confirm that soon. If Joshua was born with a body that cannot hold mana, I hope that is not true. Then he added a few more words of reminder. I am counting on you. The young man now looked at him seriously. Joshua. In an empty room, the white door gently moved as someone pushed it. Chiffin took the initiative to He said nothing and only carefully looked around. Doubt suddenly rose in him. Were those rumors true? He did not show any joy after learning he had been granted benefits. If you need anything, call me. After the admonition, he left immediately. It seemed his attitude had changed. Could it be because the Duke was not present? Joshua finally relaxed his body on the bed. I probably don't need anything. If only I could sleep straight through. Arden's message still troubled him. He was expecting a good result. Duke Agnes spent most of his time in Akardi, the capital of the Avalon Empire. He only stayed on his own lands to rest after finishing his duties. Then he looked at his hand. Duke Agnes. Had he discovered something I did not know? Joshua sat up immediately. The truth was Duke Agnes had learned of something I did not know, and it was very dangerous, but I was not yet certain. The young man slowly left the bed before anything happened. He clenched his hand and told himself, I need to regain my strength first, and to do that. That night, when the tower had sunk into darkness and silence, Joshua directly jumped down from the upper floor and landed on the wooden planks below. He moved nimbly and landed without making a sound. The complications from using too much mana had subsided somewhat. Regaining strength took longer than he expected. Joshua's whole body suddenly twinged as if something struck it. The lump inside the mana rod was reacting. Was he sensing divine magic or demonic magic? And that mana was suppressing everything. The young man thought of his spear. Lugia. Why had Lugia come here and restrained those two powers? Just then a guard stepped nearby. "Hey, did you hear anything?" The other shrugged. "Heard anything? I heard nothing." A torch was brought out to light the way. "There is nothing here." Yet the guard insisted. "Strange, I remember seeing something." "Oh, forget it. Hurry back. We will replace with another group." Joshua here was trying hard to run fast. Maybe Luja was the solution to this problem. But if I am controlled by 3 sources of power inside? At a simple house in the middle of the forest, a desperate cry rang out. Lucia shouted, "Let me go. Why are you doing this to me?" The man drew his sword. "You really do not know why." Gort shouted angrily, "Because of your son, we have all been disciplined." At that moment Lucia bit the hand of the one restraining her. Royd roughly shoved her down. "What? Are you crazy?" Her body struck the wooden floor painfully stiffly. He continued to pull her up. "We only wanted to finish you off, but you wasted our time." Gort with the sword slowly approached. "Hold her, Royd. I will take care of the rest." Rawls suddenly held him back. "Wait, Gort. Do we really have to do this? If that brat finds out..." He immediately shoved his hand off. "So what? Have you forgotten why we came here? We came to beat that kid to a pulp." He tried to persuade, "But I think we should stop it here." Gort grew even more sullen. "Rawls, the lady said she would cover for us. If you are afraid, you have the right to withdraw." Royd eagerly slit Lucia's throat. "Why do you drag things out so much? If you are scared, then get lost." "Don't make me laugh, Royd. You said you were afraid." Before the blade even touched her, they were startled by a threatening voice. "Stop." Gort even taunted further. "So you're here. We've been waiting a while. Why are you dawdling? We came to show you some fun things." Rawls' tone was full of fear now. Gort, stop it. That brat." On the other side, Joshua looked like a wild beast in wrath. "Wasn't this already dealt with last time? Don't think you'll leave here alive." Lucia also struggled to open her eyes and called him Joshua. He panicked and blurted out, "Get out of here now. That kid will kill us." But he remained arrogant. "What are you talking about? You're just scared." His gaze full of killing intent flicked to Rawls after those actions. Then he directly ordered them, "Get out." Gort loudly declared, "Joshua, I will make you like this for the rest of your life. Royd, remember to save some for me." He did not strike first and deliberately repeated the warning. "I told you to get out now." He sneered, "You brat, who do you think you are?" But before the words finished, the one hanging from the ceiling spoke up. "How did you know?" He gently landed on the floor. "How could you sense me?" The 3 soldiers cried out in panic, "Lord Kane." Unlike them, Joshua stared intently at the badge. That red badge. The person bearing that badge is one of the 3 knights personally chosen by Duke Agnes, even for Zich Hyatt. "So Zich Hyatt has begun to watch me." Chiffin had requested as much. The 3 quickly bowed and shouted, "Honored to meet you." Kane approached Joshua and briefly assessed him. "This is the child from the rumors." The boy suddenly spoke, surprising him. "Let me ask." Joshua did not hide the anger on his face. These soldiers are harming the Duke's subordinate. At the same time, Kane perceived the enormous murderous intent radiating from him. Joshua emphasized each word, according to the Duke's military law, how they handle this situation. Kane's heart seemed to skip a beat. What pressure is this I cannot break free from? But he quickly understood the matter and tightened his grip on his sword. Then Kane turned toward the target in a drawn blade stance. Of course, they would be punished on the spot. While Royd had yet to understand what was happening, Kane, moving with incredible speed, lunged forward. He swung his sword and struck him down immediately. Gort, nearby, hurriedly stepped back. The man risked it all and launched an attack at his opponent. But Kane's blade was even faster and sent his sword flying. Gort panicked and cried out as his opponent prepared to strike. "Lord Kane, wait." After dealing with him, Kane turned his focus on Rawls. I'm the one at fault, please." He quickly leaned back to avoid the strike. As the blade neared his neck, an order suddenly rang out, "Stop." Rawls' face turned pale with fear. "Please, forgive me this time." The weapon pressed even closer to him. "You should speak less if you want to live longer." Joshua quickly stepped forward. "I told you to stop," Kane answered sternly. This man dared to threaten someone from the Duke's household. Cain's amber eyes glinted sharply. Therefore, he must be punished. Though they are one of the 3 knights serving the Duke's family, the blood chain is the lowest rank. If he serves Joshua, then this is a good opportunity for a blood chain like him. He is likely the strongest at C rank, with enough skill to subdue these soldiers with just a few simple strikes. The young man calmly spoke. You said your name is Cain. Before you act, let me ask you something. Whom do you serve? Cain immediately replied without hesitation, I serve Duke Agnes. Hearing this, Joshua only pointed back to himself. Then one more question, who am I? His thoughts wavered, just as he expected. Those terrifying eyes, so much like his. Joshua lowered his voice and demanded, sheathe your sword. The sound of metal clicking echoed as he withdrew his blade. I will obey your command. Rawls immediately bowed low. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, my lord. For the rest of my life I will be loyal to you. Thank you for sparing me. Joshua reacted sharply. I don't need your loyalty. I will never forgive those who dared insult me and my family. However, because you were quick-witted, I know you understand what I mean. Tell the rest of the soldiers to leave here and not breathe a word of what happened today. Tears trembled down his face in fear. If you dare repeat anything like this, I will personally end your life. Joshua's brows knitted even tighter. If you understand, then get out now. Rawls, hearing this, bolted out of the house. I understand, young master. Lucia, with the injuries she had already endured, was now letting out faint groans. Joshua also noticed her and intended to approach. Cain suddenly asked, Are you truly the... Joshua replied, puzzled, What kind of question is that? He explained more clearly, Isn't it too different? The master I know. Before he could finish, Joshua already guessed. The child of the concubine, the one who never appeared, the one mucking out the stables. No reply came. Cain only silently lowered his gaze. After that he clenched his fist tightly and said respectfully, Sir. He suddenly declared all knights under the Agnes family must always follow the orders of Duke Agnes. Joshua raised his eyebrows and asked. Cain went straight to the point. However, once we reach the age of 23, we have the right to choose our own master. Joshua still kept silent to listen to him finish. I will have that choice next year. Cain placed one hand on his chest and continued. I trust my instincts. Next year I will leave there and serve Sir Joshua. The young man faintly smiled. He made the decision while still thinking about the future. It would be great if he could choose the right gems in the Duke's family, such as Babel. You are really strange. Lucia suddenly spoke up, making him turn his attention to her. Joshua. He was surprised and exclaimed, Mother. She was delighted and said, You are still fine, Joshua. The young man did not think further and rushed into her arms. His tears also began to flow. From now on, no matter what happens, I will always protect my mother. Lucia gently patted his back and smiled. At this time he told himself he was truly grateful to God for giving him the chance to return to the past to redo the things he regretted. Joshua's eyes grew more determined. This time it will be different. I will not shrink back and endure anymore. I am not the child of a concubine who cleans horse manure every day, Joshua Van Agnes, but the unrivaled martial god Joshua Sanders. In contrast to that simple wooden house, the Agnes mansion was sunk in silence. Arden was still walking when Chiffin said Count Rebecca came to visit. He was right behind him and immediately replied, Yes, I will escort him to the reception room. In addition, he added, however, that Count Rebecca did not. The tough guest who suddenly came to visit the Duke was Count Pincel Jin Rebecca. Even if his title was lower than the Duke, his influence over the empire could not be ignored. And the daughter of the Count Iceland Jin Rebecca was also one of the geniuses known to everyone. Just like young Master Babel, she was a genius in magic. At the age of 9, she had already started learning the second-year program. If the defect in energy was called the energy curse, then those who were gifted innate mana were called the blessing of heaven. Iceland was one of the children who received the blessing of heaven. The blessing allowed the user to sense and use mana without guidance. It was considered a wonderful gift from the god of magic. Then he whispered that was the reason why Rebecca's visit to us was an honor. I guess I will be stuck beside Pincel all day today. Chiffin carefully reminded him that the young Master Babel's next birthday will be his 15th. They began to worry because there were less than 3 years left before he reached the age of coming of age. Arden revealed a hesitant look on his face. However, Babel, he also understood the meaning and continued there with Lady Cheryl. His sigh grew more weary. That is right, Babel has the girl, so how can I? The 5 great dukes of the Avalon Empire had tremendous influence over their territories. Lady Cheryl was the daughter of the Pontier family. This family rose to the rank of duke thanks to their wealth. Walking beside him, he said, as I have said, this is a right choice when choosing Lady Cheryl after considering the Pontier family. Yet he still shook his head, no matter how much. It was rather humiliating. Chiffin looked at his back and thought to himself talent was what Duke Agnes always greedily seized, comparable to his greed for martial arts. He smiled with satisfaction. He was the one who treated others according to their talent. That was the head of the Agnes ducal family. While walking, he suddenly stopped, which caught his attention. Chiffin quickly asked, "What is it of your grace?" Arden posed a question about Joshua. His sharp senses immediately rang an alarm. "What do you mean?" He did not hesitate to reveal it. "I am thinking of giving Iceland to Joshua." Chiffin was so shocked that he froze. "Duke, how could you do that? You give Lady Iceland, the one blessed by heaven, to one cursed by energy?" The young man was at this moment looking up toward the sky. Young Master Joshua. Only he stood among the ruins. A few glittering rays of sunlight from above shone down on the remnants. In the silent midnight, Joshua had to struggle to climb up the cliff. At the northern garden of the Duke, where there was an ancient stone, he forced himself to crawl on top of it. In his previous life, he often came here to feel close to his late mother. It was always this high, and it was also the secret path he had accidentally discovered. The young man tried to run his hand over the ground. "I remember it was around here." Very quickly, he felt something strike beneath the ground. This was the place where I had found Lugia. Joshua carefully placed his fingertip on it and bit it. A drop of red blood fell quickly, forming a glowing magic circle. The spatial gate gradually formed before his eyes. When it stabilized, Joshua calmly stepped inside. The spatial gate led him to a place filled only with rubble and ruins. Not only that, the castle and the road were heavily shattered. The young man slowly approached it, observing constantly along the way. He thought suspiciously that was this really the temple I saw in my previous life? The first time I saw this place, it was not destroyed. And inside the temple, at the center pedestal, Lugia had been trapped and chained. But when the young man reached the huge stone altar, the sight that greeted him was very different. He curiously approached the iron bar. Only one iron bar. Where was Lugia? But Joshua still tried to grab the item to check. The place he touched suddenly shone brightly, startling him. He only had time to shield his eyes and cry out because of the blinding light. Gradually it passed, leaving behind faint mist. Joshua slowly opened his eyes in astonishment. What? Immediately he jumped in shock at the sight before him. The young man cried out in panic. "Where is this?" "It is a void." Beside him was a mysterious speaking power. "Over here." Joshua quickly turned and questioned the iron bar. "Who are you?" When he saw its form, he froze. "The iron bar just now." It replied back, "I am not an iron bar." Then it introduced itself. "I am the spirit of the demon god, Lugia." This shocked him greatly. "Of the demon god? You mean the treasure of the demon god?" His thoughts grew more confused. "You mean the Lugia from my previous life was the spirit of the demon god? Furthermore, it had changed form. Damn it. This, impossible. Did it also change after returning to the past with me?" Lugia quickly urged him. "We have no time." Joshua cautiously asked, "What do you mean?" "It is directly explained that as time passes, the two energies inside you will erode your body. There is only one method to stabilize the two sources of energy inside you and restore your latent power. It then proposed you should restore your inner power with a short-term method. With the current situation, you must reach at least 4. Some memories from the past surged back. Spear magic was the ancient magic that I once learned. With this method, I had found a way to obtain mana, demonstrating an immense source of power. In Egrant, the sword was considered the strongest weapon, and the spear was usually regarded as a fragile weapon. However, the number of people who could fight and resist me in my previous life could be counted on one hand. At that time, Joshua's spear magic had reached rank 4. If compared, a knight could fully display sword techniques with mana power upon reaching rank A, like an absolute master. At rank B, my spear magic had reached rank 5. Joshua had become the strongest knight of the empire. Rank 4 was only one level lower, at the level of rank B that had not yet been tested. The young man silently clenched his fist. There were a few things I needed to complete before that. It was not too difficult, but I had no time. Yet another thing made me frown. The problem was there. With the current situation, cultivating mana could be very difficult. Luja immediately reassured me, "Do not worry, I will be by your side soon. You will be able to use as much mana as you want without any consequences." Joshua asked it in surprise, "Can that really be possible?" Luja firmly reminded, "Adjust your spirit. Once you reach the supreme authority and begin to search for another power beyond me." Its figure suddenly began to fade. "My purpose will," Joshua hastily asked. "What, Luja? What are you trying to say?" But Luja's words became harder and harder to hear. "Now, there will be a fixed number next time." Joshua wanted to question further, but the dazzling light once again activated. "Hey, Luja." The young man was brought back to the building. In his hand, he was still holding the iron bar. Everything around was as silent as always. Only Joshua stood quietly there. He looked at the item in his hand and tried to call its name. "Luja?" The boy tried swinging a spear strike. "Whenever I was close to Luja, I could use a certain amount of mana." Joshua closed his eyes to enter a focused state. "The mana grafting method you will find somewhere on this continent. The only thing I have." Tiny mana particles gradually flew toward him. Even if he could or could not summon, at least it was just enough to defend. That was rank 1 spear magic. Waiting for the perfect moment, Joshua immediately opened his eyes wide. Pure mana around his body blazed like a blue flame. "I did it." He then tried to move a few more steps in joy. "Great, I can do it." To use rank 1 spear magic. Step 1. Concentrate mana at a specific point. The young man recalled the knowledge while practicing it and thrust forward with explosive force. The first magic strike was fired and hit the wall, blowing apart earth and stone. A confident smile bloomed on his face. "This is only the beginning, Kaiser Van Britten. I will become stronger and take everything from you." At the same time, in the reception room of Duke Agnes, several richly decorated tables were placed right in the middle of the room, and there were also a few people waiting there. Arden's subordinate gave a slight cough to draw attention. Then he raised his voice to announce Duke Agnes had arrived. He immediately put on a welcoming look. "We have a few unusual guests." Cheryl de Pontier, the beloved daughter of the Pontier family, quickly bowed. "It is an honor to meet you, Duke." And he immediately replied, "Cheryl, why are you so late?" The Count also cheerfully spoke up. "It was my fault, Duke." Lady Cheryl was a little hot-tempered, so we spent quite some time explaining. Arden then laughed. "Cox, what are you apologizing for? It is very difficult to meet you even though you live in the capital. So this meeting now is most appropriate, is it not?" Count Cox Lonvegen, the head of the Pontier family, he was a different kind of figure. As the one leading the Pontier house, all the family's wealth had to pass through his hands. It is truly an honor to hear those words. He continued to probe. "If you have apologized, then why not dedicate yourself to our family?" Cheryl suddenly interrupted. "Duke, it has been a long time since we met. You are still as ill-tempered as ever. How could you so carelessly snatch away an important member of someone's family?" On the contrary, he was not angry at all. "That is exactly like Cheryl, the one who held the ceremony. I wonder if that is the same Cheryl I knew." She curled her lip and said, "I heard Babel will become a C-rank knight. Is that true? I am thinking about when to start selecting a husband." Cox was alarmed at this and exclaimed, "Lady, those words are far too much." He quickly bent his body low. "Forgive me, Duke. The lady is still very immature." Arden easily brushed it off. "It is fine. The girl is behaving true to her age, is she not?" His demeanor suddenly became more cautious. Iselin came to meet Arden. I am very honored to meet you, Duke. Her appearance made Princess Cheryl extremely furious. What is this? Why is she here? Cox hurriedly reminded Cheryl to watch her mouth. Princess, why are you behaving like this? But Cheryl ignored the reminder and even mocked Joshua. That is right. I heard that the concubine's son defeated 3 soldiers. I do not know if that is true or not. Hearing her words, Cox panicked and reminded, Princess, you must be careful with your speech. Cheryl did not agree and glanced at him. Cox, what did I say wrong? I was just curious and asked. Cox replied anxiously, if you ask about things that have not been confirmed. He had not finished speaking when Chiffin stepped forward to explain. He is right, Princess Charles. Those are only unverified rumors. Not only that, but young Master Joshua was born with a weak body, and he is also afflicted with the mana curse. So how could he possibly defeat 3 soldiers? Count Pincel was surprised when he heard that Joshua was cursed. Really, young Master Joshua is under a mana curse. Iselin nodded as if to confirm that this was indeed the truth. At this moment Arden turned to Count Pincel. Pincel, you have come at the right time. Could you take care of that child for me? He was startled. What? Arden explained his request. Are you not training the 5th rank mage class in the Empire? You are surely more sensitive to mana than a knight like me. I hope you will look after the child. Pincel thought over what he had just heard. This is the time to gain favor with Duke Agnes, and he quickly responded, yes, I will take care of him. Chiffin then spoke up to plead with Arden. Duke, may I ask boldly, could I go to see the condition of young Master Joshua? The Duke was puzzled. What do you mean? Chiffin explained clearly. Before you leave the capital, should we not confirm whether young Master Joshua truly carries the mana curse? We can confirm if that rumor is true. Arden did not understand the meaning of his words. Chiffin, why do you have that intention? He replied, once it is confirmed, I will assign suitable knights to watch over him. Arden was even more confused. You want to send knights just because of a 9-year-old boy? Chiffin firmly assured me with his own thought. If he really has the strength as in the rumor, then it is best we prepare as soon as possible. I will assign someone suitable for this task. I am sure you will be very satisfied with my choice. At Chiffin's office at this moment, he received a report from Kane. I have received your report, Kane. You said there was a conflict. The young man replied, yes, that is right. Chiffin scolded. Kane continued his report. Those people deliberately harmed the Duke's wife. Chiffin angrily slammed the table. What did you say? He gnashed his teeth. How dare they do that to Vanessa? Kane quickly corrected. It was not Vanessa but Lucica. Hearing it was not the one he thought of, Chiffin calmed his voice. Lucia, is it? Kane continued. Yes, the concubine of the Duke. Hearing that, Chiffin calmly sat back in his chair. So you are saying that 2 soldiers were crippled by a concubine? Kane firmly declared, Lady Lucia is officially recognized as the Duke's wife. She is not someone lowly soldiers can lay hands on. The way they acted was as if challenging and insulting the Duke. If I were them, I would be ready to admit guilt and accept punishment. After thinking for a while, Chiffin spoke very well. We will overlook this matter. This time I have something for you to do. Kane obeyed. I am ready to receive orders. Chiffin commanded. Kane, from today you will serve young Master Joshua. Kane was surprised by this assignment. What? Fighting against young Master Joshua? Chiffin continued. That is right. Because of the recent incidents, we need to confirm whether young Master Joshua is afflicted with the mana curse. He may be the one cursed by mana, but the Duke refuses to accept it. If we continue like this, he will become the stumbling block for young Master Babel. Kane asked with hesitation, do you think young Master Babel will lose to him? Chiffin angrily denied it. Kane, do not speak nonsense. Young Master Babel is a one-of-a-kind genius. Do you think someone like him will yield to such a stumbling block? But Kane did not think so. The stumbling block, that child in my eyes, is like a meteor crashing through the sky and striking the earth. Chiffin ordered Kane to keep the fight a secret. The matter of you fighting young Master Joshua will remain hidden. Inject a small amount of mana into Joshua. If he is cursed with mana, his body will not accept it. Mana is like poison to one afflicted. If it flows into his body, he will not survive more than 10 days. Cain worried to himself. I know he stands by young Master Babel, but I never thought he would go this far. Chiffin then ordered Cain, if you understand my words, then wait at the training ground. The Duke and the Count will be there. Cain obeyed. Yes, my lord. At the training ground, Cain now felt troubled, even if it was a direct order from above. I do not want to harm young Master Joshua, because I have decided to protect him. At that moment Joshua approached Cain and spoke. You are Cain, right? Cain was startled. Young master. Joshua spoke frankly. I heard you will be my opponent. Cain replied. Joshua, upon hearing this, gave a cold smile. Is that all? The Duke lets you do this, you think? It seems he has realized that I will not use my full strength. Very well, I accept all. Cain tried to reassure Joshua. You do not need to worry, because I have no intention of fighting you. Joshua was puzzled. You have no intention of fighting me. Joshua gave a dark smile. How ridiculous. Are you looking down on me? Cain panicked. Young master, that is... Joshua ignored Cain's next words. Although you chose the right master you wish to serve, I also have my own standards to choose those who serve me, and I have no reason to choose someone with weak and petty thoughts. Joshua continued speaking while Cain stood in astonishment. If you want to see who I really am, then give it your all. Your sword must be drawn and fight with all your might. At that moment the Duke's group appeared behind Joshua and Arden spoke. It seems both of you are here. Have you introduced yourselves yet? Cain greeted when he saw the Duke. It is an honor to meet you, Duke. Chiffin still showed disdain for Joshua, thinking that he was still rude to Arden as always. Unexpectedly Joshua knelt down and made a solemn bow. Joshua von Agnes, honored to meet the Duke. Arden praised him while Chiffin froze in angry disbelief. I do not remember teaching you etiquette, but you did well. Joshua smiled and replied, I just learned it from someone else. Arden asked him, You have heard already, have you not? Joshua calmly smiled and answered, Yes, you will test my strength. Chiffin cut into their conversation. Young Master Joshua, it seems there is some misunderstanding. This is not a test. The Duke is only concerned about you. We are doing this only to find the skills you have not yet mastered so we can make a suitable training plan. However, Joshua knew well, so the intention is to find my weakness. This bastard is on Babel's side. That is why he wants to use this test to kill me. Arden asked, Are you ready? The young man stepped forward and replied, Ready, I await your command. But unexpectedly Arden declared, Cain, Arden sternly said, because this is a trial battle, we will not use real swords. Instead, we will use wooden swords for training. Babel picked up the wooden sword and replied, Yes. He raised the sword forward. I think this match does not necessarily need to be too tense. Joshua secretly laughed. Babel, Chiffin, all of you wish for my downfall, so you created such a play, but it will not be that easy. Then I will show you my performance. After that he threw the sword hard onto the ground and stepped on it. That action startled both Arden and Chiffin. Joshua confidently declared, I only need this. Cheryl burst out laughing. He truly has a sense of humor. Cox added, Princess Cheryl, why would you say that? He stepped forward. This is not something to joke about. What will you do with that piece of wood? Arden raised his hand to stop him and asked, Are you truly serious? Joshua turned his head with eyes full of confidence. Yes. After that Arden silently observed Joshua carefully. He spoke, Very well, and took the guests to their seats. Chiffin replied, Yes, I understand. Arden continued, There is nothing more to say. Babel, you are not allowed to use mana. Babel assured, You do not need to worry, inside feeling smug. Fighting this brat and needing to use mana, what a waste. Cain observed from afar wondering, Young Master Joshua, what are you thinking? Babel boastfully said, Do you think you can block my sword with just that piece of wood? I think you are more suited to the status of a horse dung cleaner than a piece of trash. Arden shouted loudly, giving the order, Now begin. Then Babel rushed forward like a prairie leopard. Joshua calmly pushed the wooden stick up close to his face. Babel was startled and quickly dodged that move. He roared, Seems you have learned a few tricks to play me, huh? Think you can outsmart me? Joshua analyzed. Although he is a C-rank knight, he only has speed while his mind is immature. At that moment the two engaged in a fierce battle. Babel, being struck continuously, became enraged. "Bastard, how dare you? A son of a concubine dares to challenge me. How dare you?" Before he could finish speaking, the wooden stick thrust straight into his stomach. Joshua's face was cold with sharp, fearless eyes. Babel trembled and cursed. "Scum like you dare." Joshua remarked, "Good endurance, Babel. Now keep your distance." Before he could think further, Joshua was suddenly attacked. Babel cursed. "You should crawl back to where you belong." Joshua realized, mana at that distance, truly dangerous. Arden reacted quickly and shouted to stop him. Babel stopped. At that moment where the battle was happening, a large surge of mana suddenly erupted. Arden's face grew stern as he looked toward it. Babel stood gritting his teeth, staring at the magic orb in front of him. Joshua was using his hands to generate waves of energy. Pincel was shocked. "What is this? That mana flow?" Babel furiously shouted, "Liar, this bastard truly has mana." He recalled Arden's words, "I will wait for your results." And Babel drew a real sword. "I will not accept someone like you. The heir must be me." Joshua remained calm. "Anyway, in 10 years the title of Duke will disappear after an imperial civil war. If from now on I gain support from behind, this will help my plan advance a few more steps. I must obtain the title of Duke." The two of them charged at each other. Arden shouted loudly to separate the two. "Stop." Cheryl, frightened, covered her ears tightly to block the loud sound. He grew angry. "I will not forgive you if you continue to fight like that." His body trembled as he struggled to suppress his angry emotions. Chiffin was stunned. "Impossible. Only 9 years old, and the amount of mana is already so terrifying. This will shake the world." He turned his head and asked, "Chiffin, is that enough?" He was startled. "Yes. However, I have never seen this type of mana," Pincel interrupted. "My lord, according to my observation, that is definitely mana. Looking at the amount of mana young Master Joshua possesses, it surely exceeds young Master Babel by far. It is a type of mana I have never seen, the point of attention of this mana." Cheryl was excited. "So he is a magician." Cain exclaimed, "This terrifying power is truly frightening." Arden called Joshua. "Only 9 years old. How interesting." Chiffin hurriedly said, "But my lord, that mana." He radiated killing intent. "Chiffin, do you still have anything else to say?" He lowered his head in fear. "Not my lord." Arden proposed, "Joshua, I have something to ask you. Come to my room tonight." Chiffin, upon hearing that, his whole body stiffened. Babel's expression was bewildered, unable to believe it. He clenched his fists. "Father has never called me into his private room. Yet that bastard, who is nothing more than a manure cleaner in the stables, is specially allowed to do that." Joshua replied, "Yes, I understand. Tonight I will come to see you, Duke Arden." In the guest room, Cheryl jumped excitedly. "Cox, isn't it wonderful? Truly wonderful." He replied, "Princess, please calm down. Please preserve your dignity." She was thrilled. Unbelievable. Only 9 years old and already a magician. Unbelievable, isn't it? "All right, I have decided." Cox wondered. "Decided what?" Cheryl seriously. The fresh morning enveloped the Agnes castle. Chiffin was slapped and thrown backward. Venus Pawn Agnes, sister of King Marcus and wife of Duke Agnes, angrily questioned him. "Chiffin, say it again. What happened to Babel?" He cautiously lowered his head and replied, "Young Master Babel has lost to Joshua." Venus stammered in fury. How could that be?" She struck Chiffin with another slap. Venus gritted her teeth and trembled. "That brat can use mana, and even stronger than Babel. How could that be?" She tried to calm herself and asked him, "And what did he say?" Chiffin knelt down respectfully. "It seems he will take Joshua to the capital," she muttered in contemplation, "to Akardi. He slowly speculated, because he has witnessed what Joshua can do. He wants to observe him." Chiffin resolutely looked up and proposed, "Whatever the case may be, things will get worse if we do not act quickly." Venus replied irritably, "If you had completed your mission properly, things would not have come to this." He grew tense. Please do not worry, Madam Venus. I will surely handle everything well. Venus sneered and questioned him. Then what is that over there? Chiffon began to speculate. Although this is my thought, it seems Arden is trying to inform the king that Joshua is a Class C mana user. Venus laughed mockingly. You still think he would do that? He stubbornly gave his opinion. Not only did the Duke witness it with his own eyes, but also 2 counts witnessed it as well. Even if he could not use mana, they still pushed him into this test. Venus asked suspiciously, Test? He sternly recounted, yes, to be recognized as a Class C knight. One must fight one of the royal knights and demonstrate the ability to use mana on the battlefield. Venus laughed maliciously. Is that so? That brat must fight a royal knight. Oh dear, I need to call your uncle. Elsewhere, a knock sounded at the door of a room. Joshua stopped and announced, It is me, Joshua. A voice replied, Come in. Arden carefully watched him step inside. Joshua knelt and placed his hand on his chest. You summoned me. Arden asked him sternly, Who are you? He was silent for a moment, then lowered his head. I am. Suddenly he raised his head proudly and looked directly at Arden, Joshua upon Agnes. Arden gazed at him thoughtfully. Very well. It seems you have changed greatly since the last time I saw you. Joshua quickly responded, It has been a long time since then. Arden observed him sternly. Do you hold a grudge against me? He hurriedly explained. Not at all, my lord, because you must worry about the royal family. It is natural that you could not care about. Arden looked at him suspiciously. A request, an apology. Joshua immediately refuted. Not that useless thing. He thought to himself, in this cruel world, an apology is meaningless. He declared boldly, It is about you taking me to the capital Akardi. Arden stared at him. Are you certain I will take you to the capital? He confidently replied, Absolutely. He questioned again, Why do you think so? Joshua began to explain, There are 2 reasons. First, because Babel is your next successor, but I have appeared, affecting this matter. I thought the best way to prevent family conflict is to send me elsewhere. Arden furrowed his brows. I see. This child not only possesses talent, if only I could have trained him earlier. Joshua continued his reasoning. And the other reason is that you want to seize me, someone who can bring great benefits. If I can develop beyond you, the Agnes family will rise again once more. The key point is that even the royal family cannot interfere in this matter. Arden tried to appear calm. I understand. Being able to say such words must mean you are aware that you possess some ability. Joshua looked straight into his eyes with determination. I only know that I will not disappoint you. He looked at him with appreciation. Very impressive, very confident even while standing before me. He continued to question Joshua. Do you mean you have found a way to solve the problem? He replied frankly, Yes, it is to bring me to Akardi and send me to the academy. Arden recalled. The royal children of the Avalon Empire from the ages of 10 to 15 had to attend the academy in the capital for 6 years. Some, like Babel, could graduate early. The reason why royal families used the academy was as a method to instill royal ideology into the children while also searching for hidden talents. Arden glanced at Joshua. Then, as you say, I will take you to the capital with me, and at the same time I will visit often since my place of work is nearby. He calculated inwardly, to be taught swordsmanship by Duke Agnes, one of the 5 masters. This is my opportunity, but he reaffirmed to Arden, everything will be fine. He asked skeptically. Fine, Joshua calmly replied. I know you are a master of the sword school, but I use the spear as my main weapon. Arden exclaimed in surprise. What, the spear? He pondered. I was worried when he chose the staff in the Joshua looked in astonishment at the immense mana before him. A vast aura was spreading. I cannot stand firm, but just as Duke Agnes is confident in his swordsmanship, I am also proud that my spear techniques are invincible. He shouted strongly, I will show you that those who block my way will taste my spear, even if it means facing the 9 stars. Arden was ready to strike. You say you will defeat the 9 stars, then prove that your spear has value. Joshua looked at him doubtfully, meaning? Arden spoke sternly, I will personally test you. Joshua clenched his teeth inwardly. Duke Agnes is one of the 9 stars. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Arden looked at him calmly. Are you satisfied? He replied politely, yes. One more condition, he asked suspiciously. Condition? Joshua confidently spoke. If I pass your test, I hope you will accept the request I mentioned earlier. Arden immediately agreed. Very well, if you pass the test, not only will you be allowed to use the spear, I promise to fulfill all your requests. However, if you fail the test, you must follow my demands. Joshua thought inwardly. His demand will surely be to attend the academy and learn swordsmanship. He replied confidently, I understand. He silently made up his mind. That will not happen, because I will show everything I have. Elsewhere, a magic orb was being formed by strange incantations. A figure appeared within the orb. The mysterious mage spoke. Lady Venus, I have prepared everything. Venus removed her hood. Very well. Venus calmly greeted me. It has been a long time. Is everything still well? The mysterious man in the orb replied, Of course, I am greatly enjoying life in the luxurious palace. How is it with the Duke? Venus stared intently at the orb. Actually, something has happened here, and I want to ask for your help. Joshua opened the door and stepped outside. He looked around cautiously. Smiling to himself, he thought, just as I expected. Someone who has reached the supreme realm. Amazing. My body is still trembling a little. Babel suddenly appeared, startling him. Hey Joshua, come meet me for a bit. Joshua turned away indifferently. Do I have something to say to you? He hurriedly called out. Wait. He grew irritated. Fought me again. Babel silently assessed. His eyes are different from usual. His soul, his passion is reflected within those eyes. He does not want to lose another time. Joshua smiled cunningly. Are you sure? Morning at the king's palace, the Cultica Hall. Inside the palace, Marcus laughed as he asked the man kneeling below. Really? The king of the Avalon Empire, Marcus Van Britten, was amused, a talent shining brightly. The Agnes family. Cain bowed respectfully. Yes, that is right. Marcus asked him again. Does Lady Venus have such a child? He stammered in reply. It seems not the Duchess's child. Marcus exclaimed in surprise. What? Could it be the child of a concubine? Cain explained further. It could be said to be the child of a servant in the family. Marcus pondered. How interesting. He immediately stood up. Just one Babel alone is like a diamond among stones, yet it seems Duke Agnes at the same time possesses 2 diamonds. How enviable. Cain spoke in praise. The princess also has talent resounding throughout the nation, my lord. He immediately refuted. That is not the truth. Recently, there have been some who inherited the king's talents, but judging by the skills they possess, they could not be weaker. Cain thought silently. The king is destroying them. The princes now are quite talented, but the king places demands on them that are too high, conditions almost impossible to achieve. Because of that, the king's expectations for talent are rather unreasonable. Marcus stroked his beard in agreement. Right. If Duke Agnes had not hidden away his second son, his skills could rival Babel's. Cain reported back to Marcus. Actually, there are rumors that Babel was defeated by that boy. He exclaimed in shock. What? Defeated? Is that boy older than Babel? Cain reflected. He is only 9 years old. Marcus was even more astonished. A child only 9 years old possessing talent that could make the entire empire bow its head. He laughed heartily. How very interesting. Then we must hurry to confirm this. Cain also agreed. Yes, indeed. This may be the plan of the Agnes family, to summon the royal soldiers. He furrowed his brow and judged. I estimate that boy is around C rank knight level. Marcus looked at him with interest. C rank at 9 years old. That is indeed a good thing. Truly curious. Just how strong is he? Cain was so tense that he broke into a sweat. The emperor will not personally test the energy of a 9-year-old boy. Soon he will have in his hands an unimaginable power. He quickly protested. You do not need to waste your effort worrying about such things. Marcus waved his hand indifferently. I too want to go, but that would be humiliating. I cannot do that. As if a dog were to open its eyes wide waiting for food to appear. He sighed. Anyway, send one of the princes there. Having an eye for choosing people is one of the talents a king should have. He pondered. It also depends on the way of choosing which dish to eat among those I have already prepared. In another place, Joshua was fiercely fighting with Babel. He struck him back. Babel gritted his teeth to block the attack. He angrily thought, "Mana gathered in that punch. Is this guy really this strong?" Joshua stared at him. "I can guess what you are thinking. Control your emotions." He slowly walked closer to Babel. "I will show you what fear is, the technique you mocked," he suddenly exclaimed. "What?" He furiously swung his sword at Joshua. "Don't underestimate me." Joshua clenched his hand, creating a powerful surge of mana. He attacked, sending Babel flying again. Light burst. Defeated, Babel thought. He concentrated mana into one part of his body. "I don't want to admit it, but this brat really is stronger than me." Joshua looked down from above, dissatisfied. Babel angrily gritted his teeth. "Joshua." He looked at him slyly, then became stronger. "Never forget today, after taking a punch from the one you've always looked down on. Right now, I only want to end your life, insulting and trampling on me and my mother. But I will let it go this time because, in my eyes, you also have that capability. If you don't change that damn attitude, I will make it so you can never hold a sword again." Babel trembled as he looked at Joshua. Joshua turned his back indifferently. "And don't forget today's match." Babel gritted his teeth resentfully. Tears began to fall. The next morning, at the Agnes Palace, Joshua sat blankly on the bed, tired. "It seems like yesterday I used too much mana again." He looked at his hand. "Although I can control mana after absorbing Luja, I still have to endure side effects. Is my body unable to withstand it?" He looked at the door where there was a knock. Cain came this early. He went to open it. "You came earlier than me." Cheryl stood at the door cheerfully. "Hello, you are Joshua upon Agnes, right?" Joshua asked back. "Who are you?" She smiled, introducing herself. "I am Cheryl de Pontier. I come from the Pontier ducal family. I heard you are 3 years younger than me. So how should I address you?" "You can call me sister if you want. Standing here to talk is inconvenient. Let's go inside to talk. I have many things I'm curious about you." Joshua suddenly raised his hand to block Cheryl. "Hey, get out." Then he slammed the door shut. Cheryl stood stunned at the door. Joshua walked in angrily. "What the hell? Early morning." He glanced at the door being knocked again. "She hasn't left yet. Should I ignore her? Does she not understand human speech?" Joshua stormed over and angrily opened the door, startling Cain outside. "I told you to get out already." Cain stammered. "Young master, are you busy? I'll come back later." Joshua quickly replied, "Sorry, I mistook you for someone else. Anyway, how are things going?" He calmly replied, "I have finished preparing. But I still don't understand why you are doing this." Joshua looked at Cain mysteriously. "You just..." A quiet atmosphere enveloped the entire training hall. Rodden grinned slyly as he walked toward Rawls. "Where did you sell Gort and Royd?" Arid, walking beside him, also mocked. "I heard those two were knocked down by Joshua. Is that true? Look at you. Did someone steal your rice book or what?" Rodden took the chance to tease as well. "Those guys bullied Joshua. Could they have caught some disease from that kid? Anyway, who gathered the knights here?" Arid replied, "I heard it's a knight from red blood, so today's training will be really tough." Suddenly a shout rose up, surprising everyone's attention. Cain and Joshua walked in together at the sound of the shout. Knight Cain from red blood had arrived. Noise erupted. "What? That kid? It's Joshua." Rawls trembled at the sight. "Young Master Joshua, why is he here?" Cain held his spear firmly. "Today's training will be led by young Master Joshua. He will assist everyone." Joshua spoke loudly. "I am Joshua Pawn Agnes, and I have been assigned the task of training all of you." Everyone gaped at him in astonishment. He continued, "The knights standing here may later become commanders leading the vanguard. To achieve that, skill is the most important. That is why today I will personally check and evaluate your strength. All of you, come up one by one." Murmurs broke out. "What? Are you sure? Young master, you're joking, right?" Cain whispered to Joshua. "Do we really have to do this, young master? Even though you're their young master, fighting the knights might be a bit." Rodden sneered in agreement. "He's the right young master. If you continue, you might get hurt. Arid also laughed in agreement. That's right. Although you are our master, doing this is an insult to the knights here. Joshua gripped his spear tightly. He strode down the steps powerfully. He pointed the spear tip at Rawls. Do you really think so? He panicked. What? No, of course I have never thought that. Joshua shouted angrily in his face. Shut up. After seeing the reactions of the knights here, it seems you still haven't told them the words I told you, right? Rawls knelt down flat. I sincerely apologize. Please forgive me, young master. Joshua angrily struck the spear on the ground. Last time I let it go, but this time don't even think about it. The crime of threatening my mother is enough to put you in a coffin, but I let it go and gave you another chance. Yet you let that golden opportunity slip. Do you want your life to end like those two, Royd and Gort? Rawdon heard that and turned pale with fear. Perhaps that is why Royd and Gort are not here. Arid beside him kept trembling. Did they really die at the hands of young Master Joshua? Rawls clasped his hands earnestly. Please, give me another chance, young Master Joshua, I beg you. Joshua replied flatly. There is no such thing as a second chance. But for the pride of a knight of the Agnes house, I will give you one more opportunity. Draw your sword. If you defeat me, then I will pretend nothing happened today. Rawls looked at him in terror. All right, if I die that way, I will fight with all my strength. He gripped his sword tightly. The enemy is still a child. I can still win. He shouted and charged at Joshua. Joshua smiled dangerously at him. Joshua forcefully sent him flying backwards. A burst of mana lit up the whole area. Rawls was defeated and lay in a miserable state. Arid looked at Joshua in alarm. He can use mana. Joshua declared boldly, Listen, judging an opponent's ability by their appearance is a grave mistake on the battlefield. Whoever still doubts my strength, step forward. I am ready to face you. Rawdon stepped forward solemnly to him. He placed his hand on his chest. He knelt and loudly proclaimed, Knight number 23 is honored to meet young Master Joshua. Then shouts rose continuously. Knight number 35 is honored to meet young Master Joshua. Knight number 43. Knight number 13 is honored to meet young Master Joshua. Knight number 65 is honored to meet young Master Joshua. Cain behind Joshua looked at him with pride. He smiled, thinking, He really did it, my lord. From now on I will devote myself to serving you. Elsewhere, Cheryl yawned wearily. In the guest room, she hugged a stuffed rabbit alone. She sadly recalled Joshua's words from the morning, Get out. She trembled. Joshua. Cox happily opened the door to inform her, Princess Cheryl, I have urgent news. I heard the royal knights will soon arrive here. Cheryl buried her face in the pillow in frustration. I told you to leave me alone. He smiled and asked, Princess, is something troubling you? You seem upset about something since this morning. What is it? Cheryl shouted, Cox, leave me alone. Have you forgotten my father's instructions? Cox suddenly remembered. I forgot my master's instructions. Cheryl warned, Do not forget your purpose in coming here. Cox hurriedly closed the door. My fault. In the Duke's study, Arden questioned Joshua. Did you punish a knight there? He knelt respectfully. Yes, that is correct. You know well, my lord. Those knights slandered and insulted my mother. I acted according to the law and punished them for daring to offend a noble's family. Arden thought to himself, and I understand this. If I were in that position, I would also be quick to cut off their heads with my sword. He looked at him severely. How shameful. Joshua tried to explain, Are you thinking this was a momentary act of a boy who cannot control his emotions? Arden asked skeptically. What do you mean? He spoke up to recount. Just a few days ago, I was still a boy living in the stables shoveling manure every day. Even if you say I have gained skills beyond imagination, it is still very hard to gain trust. Arden looked at him doubtfully. Then Joshua looked at him seriously. Overwhelming strength, by planting fear in their hearts. Then they will never dare to threaten me or my mother, and I am certain that all the knights will see that I too carry the blood of the Duke. Arden pondered. I understand your point. Now put that matter aside and get ready. We will measure your mana. The royal knights should be arriving soon. You must already have heard the news. Joshua bowed slightly. Yes, I will go prepare. The lion head on Armstrong's shoulder armor shone brilliantly. The first knight of Duke Agnes, Golden Mane Commander Armstrong, looked around with interest. How very amusing. Our Duke truly is fortunate to have two sons who are both young C-class knights. Chiffin mocked disdainfully. After all, one of them is just the son of a concubine, so what is so great about that? Armstrong looked at him with contempt. You are afraid your position will be shaken after seeing young Master Babel defeated by young Master Joshua. Right, Chiffin shouted angrily. What? Where did you hear such things? Arden stepped forward sternly. The royal knights are about to arrive, and you still stand here arguing. Armstrong and Chiffin both bowed. Greetings, my Lord Duke. Armstrong looked at Joshua. So that is young Master Joshua. He looks rather frail. Suddenly Joshua cried out eagerly. They are here. Armstrong was startled. What? They stood solemnly to welcome the Royal Knight Battalion that had arrived. Chiffin was astonished. Who else is coming? Why would the Royal Knights bring an entire battalion like this? Footsteps descended onto the carpet. Caesar stepped down calmly. So this is Duke Agnes, one of the 9 stars. Arden was alarmed. You are the 4th prince. Joshua thought to himself. The 4th. A soldier was struck by a painful surge of mana and fell to the ground. The man trembled and begged, I am sorry, Lord Joker, please stop. Joker swung his sword down at the soldier without mercy. Joker, captain of the Royal Knights, smiled wickedly. A weakling like you dares to challenge me? Suddenly a voice sounded, surprising him. I knew you would be here. A mysterious man stepped forward. If you keep bullying newcomers like this, then who will dare to join the Royal Knights? The man retorted. I cannot stand by and watch them act like knights just because they can use a bit of mana. But why are you here? The mysterious man replied, there are some missions from Lady Venus that you must undertake. Elsewhere, the Agnes estate party was still receiving the royal battalion. Joker stared ahead. Then I just needed to make sure that one, Joshua, will never be able to wield a sword again, right? Caesar smiled and said, I suppose that is Joshua from the rumors. Joshua glared at him with hatred. Caesar, that bastard. The hooded man spoke up. Young Master Joshua, please mind your manners. You are in the presence of a prince. Joshua laughed lightly. There cannot be 2 suns in the Empire's sky. Contrary to that man's words, the only person a knight shows respect to without being told is the Emperor alone. Why should I pay attention to the 4th prince whose identity is uncertain? Balmung and the knights formed a barrier in front of Caesar. The knights stepped forward. It seems this brat cannot control himself anymore. Balmung Don Brown, the 9th knight and deputy commander of the Royal Knights, shouted, You are just a bastard who cleans horse dung. Did you fall into a dung pit and go mad? Armstrong stood firmly with his sword beside Joshua. Balmung harshly criticized, I would understand if he were Duke Agnes, but why must you defend a lowly wretch like him? Armstrong looked at him resolutely. Young Master Joshua is also part of the Agnes family. Arden spoke sternly. You are in the presence of a prince. Do you want to die? Balmung recoiled in fear at the mana before him. That is, one of the 9 stars, Duke Arden von Agnes, this terrible pressure. Arden glanced at Joshua. You are the one behaving improperly. Apologize to the prince at once. Caesar smiled. It is fine. He is not wrong. The hooded man panicked. Your Highness, this is an event people will pay attention to. If things go badly because of this, the royal family may lose its authority. Caesar replied, I am only mocked for my own pride and simply because I am the 4th prince, an inept man. And as he said, the only one deserving of respect from the knights is the emperor alone. I am fine, so I hope you ignore those knights earlier. Furthermore, the knights should prove they can protect others within their ability. I am certain he only knows empty words. You just talk and do nothing. Joshua thought, as always, he uses words to turn the tide. But that is all he can do. In this life things will change. I will cut off your head. That would be best for you. He stepped closer. I am always ready. Joker shouted in annoyance. You arrogant one. You Prince, I may be overstepping by requesting this, but I want to evaluate the mana by a duel. I want to witness with my own eyes the skill that lets him act like that. Caesar said casually, "for your safety as well as fairness to me, Lord Joker, someone of B rank would perhaps be more suitable for him." Joker smiled wickedly. "Thank you. In this case, I will do well regarding the mana evaluation of young Master Joshua." The Agnes family sternly observed the scene. At the Agnes training grounds, Joker and Joshua faced each other. The royal family also focused intently on the match. Joker held his sword and sneered. "Now do you still intend to fool everyone around you? Steel, do you think this is a game? Everyone around says you have a bit of talent, yet you dare insult the prince and the commands of the royal family." Joshua smiled. "You talk too much. I suppose royal knights are chosen for their gift of speech, aren't they?" Joker raised his sword. "I will make you regret your words. You know how this trial works. You will fight me, and I will decide whether you can use mana or not." Suddenly, the steel struck forward directly at him. Joker quickly blocked Joshua's attack. He was shocked. This mana energy, it is enormous. He lunged fiercely. "Even so, it is nothing but a toy. I just need to close the distance and I can finish you." Joshua grinned wickedly and thought, "Most people fighting me believe they can attack when they close in, but I have overcome that weakness through long training." He struck his steel forcefully at Joker. He launched his attack decisively. The strike shot directly at him. Joker once again raised his sword with mana gathering all around. Caesar grew interested. Impressive. To think he can fight on equal terms with a B-rank knight at his age. Balmung answered with a laugh. "Your Highness, it may look that way, but Joker is limiting himself to C rank." Balmung thought to himself, "Their mana cannot be underestimated. Joshua is holding the advantage in technique. What technique is that? I have never seen it before." Joker continued his fierce assault. "Damn it, if this keeps up the fight will end. If that happens, Lady Venus will have my head. I have no choice, I can only gamble here." As expected of B rank, he is on a completely different level from Babel. "My mana is becoming harder to control. My strength and mana are reaching their limit." Joshua firmly blocked Joker's attack. The man frowned. "The only one who has beaten me until now is Agnes, but I am still faster in this range." He attacked Joshua with madness. Joshua gasped, gripping his steel tightly. Armstrong sprang up in alarm. "Duke, Joker's mana has surpassed B rank. Young Master Joshua is in danger." Arden said sternly, "Wait and watch." Joker laughed dangerously as he charged. "It seems you are not resisting but only focusing your mana, but this time it will not work." Joshua clenched his teeth, focusing to control his power. Joker slashed at him. "Useless, gathering your mana into that steel." Suddenly Balmung shouted in horror, "Joker, what on earth are you doing? Stop immediately." A blinding light exploded across the training grounds. Arden still watched the battle intently. Balmung hurriedly shielded Caesar. The training ground lay in ruins after the clash. Joker gritted his teeth as he retreated. "I was pushed back." He glared forward with resentment. A few minutes earlier Joshua gritted his teeth, thinking that technique it seemed to be B rank. If this continued I would lose. Joker madly charged forward useless to try to accumulate mana into that steel. He sneered that the clash between C rank mana and B rank sword mastery he would receive massive additional damage after the previous shock, and with that his mission would be complete. Joshua gritted his teeth, calculating that with his current condition, this would be very difficult, but he had no choice but obey my command, Lugia. A miraculous light flashed at the tip of the spear, and the ground seemed to crumble. Joshua held the spear pointed straight at his opponent. Chiffin exclaimed in shock that is an artifact. Caesar watched the scene with interest and turned to ask if Balmung, Lord Balmung, is such a battle satisfying to you, he asked suspiciously. The man replied nonchalantly, although he still has a long way to go. "I can say his skill is impressive." Balmung bowed respectfully. "Yes, I understand." Joshua looked challengingly at Joker. "How about it?" the man responded. He said firmly that I only blocked your attack. Joker glared at him with hatred. "I do not know what you have done, but this will be your end." Balmung gradually stepped onto the floor and said, "Thank you, Lord Joker, the match will end here." Joker exclaimed, "Lord Balmung." Balmung regarded Joshua thoughtfully with a person who can pass a C rank test, even block Joker's strike, who is of a higher rank than B. Although I have seen Babel von Agnes, the most talented in the Empire, I am not this surprised what is hidden in this child. He loudly proclaimed in the name of the Lord from this moment on the son of the Agnes house Joshua von Agnes is officially a C rank knight except for the Emperor's sword. Joshua thought at first I really did not care about things like becoming a C rank knight, but if I do something foolish it could lead to my end. Everyone applauded to celebrate Joshua's promotion. Caesar looked at him joyfully. Joshua pondered, I do not want to show them my weakness. I will surely make everyone here pay for what I suffered in my previous life. Arden asked Joshua, are you all right? Joshua glanced at him. I have never seen that expression before thinking about him looking at me that way. He stepped closer to Balmung. I am fine and accepted the sword from his hand. Joshua raised the sword clearly under the witness of the Empire, never before on the continent, the birth of the youngest mana user. That night, in the conference room of Duke Agnes, everyone assembled. Count Onhul Vasil of the House of Duke Agnes spoke and reported anything that needed attention. Armstrong stood up recently, and we just received reports that the knights who went on expeditions suddenly returned. Onhul wondered if the Golden Mane Knights returned so soon. Armstrong recounted that for some reason, in the Northern Territories they reported that the number of monsters approaching villages had doubled, and the biggest reason they had to return was because black goblins appeared along with other monsters. Black goblins, even in the Forest of Shadows, are considered the strongest with power that can even tear apart dwarves famous for their tough skin. Even 4th rank mages and knights with sword skills higher than B rank also struggle when fighting them. Onhul was shocked. What did you say, black goblins? The silver-haired man was bewildered that it would be bad if such things appeared near the town. The brown-haired man also discussed what can be done to deal with them. Arden solemnly, I will handle this matter myself. Move on to the next issue. He stammered, yes. The second issue concerns the 5 ducal families. Arden wondered if the 5 ducal families is that the Pontier family, he thought to himself, is the reason Cheryl and Cox came here. He turned to Armstrong to give me a report on that matter after the meeting. The man carefully bowed yes. Onhul spoke sternly, if there are any more issues to report, please say them. Chiffin raised his hand to speak. I have a few matters concerning young Master Joshua. The brown-haired man said eagerly, I heard he surpassed Babel and became the youngest C-rank knight. This is good news for the Agnes family. Another interrupted, not now, please be silent and listen to Commander Chiffin. Chiffin spoke, young Master Joshua is a forgotten person in the family. The main issue here is that before he had no mana to do anything. But why could someone suddenly become proficient and become a C-rank knight? It cannot be said that this is due to innate talent. Another question then is, what are you trying to suggest to Commander Chiffin? Chiffin's voice grew serious. Personally, I think that young Master Joshua borrowed power from some source, and this could endanger our future. If not, then I do not know how else to explain it. Armstrong glanced at him. Another source of power? Are you sure this is not your baseless speculation? Chiffin replied. You witnessed it yourself. The weapon that young Master Joshua used, could that weapon change form and have magic within it? That is an artifact. Above all, young Master Joshua's weapon was merely a steel rod. It is impossible for a steel rod to contain such power. When Lord Joker struck in that final murmurs rose. Dark energy. I suppose he could not have used dark energy to become stronger, but anything related to demons and dark magic. Although taboo on the continent, I think the royal family would not like this either. Duke Agnes, if this is true, then we will all be in trouble. Someone suggested that we should find out the truth first, Onhul said rightly. We must find out the truth before it is too late. I think we should send young Master Joshua somewhere far away from here. Suddenly Joshua pushed the door and appeared. He slowly stepped in. He glanced at Chiffin. Dark energy. If you are so curious, why not verify it yourself? Chiffin angrily turned. What did you just say? Joshua smiled dangerously. Why do you not test for yourself whether I truly borrowed dark power by challenging me? Or do you not dare? Chiffin ground his teeth. That brat dares. He challenges me when he has the Duke's backing. If there is a mistake, then I must pay for my words. If that power truly belongs to him, then I will lose. Joshua mocked. Why are you thinking so long? If you are one of the most capable knights in the family, don't you think you should at least be confident after saying those words? Chiffin angrily stood up. Your words are offensive, young Master Joshua. A wave of mana radiated from him, making everyone fearful. Calm down, Commander Chiffin. You are in the presence of Duke Agnes. Arden immediately spoke. Both of you stopped. Chiffin, there is one thing you may have forgotten. Do you not recall who evaluated Joshua's mana? Armstrong reminded him. It was the Royal Knight's mage. If he borrowed power from a demon, then those people would have noticed. Arden pondered, and with that, Joshua's problem was resolved. Does anyone disagree with this? Arden continued to declare, however, Joshua, that does not mean everything is settled. There are a few things I need to verify. Your sudden increase in strength not only surprised everyone here, it surprised me as well. Therefore, to explain your ability, everyone rushed to stop Arden. Are you planning to enter the Forest of Shadows yourself? Such matters should be left to the knights. That is right. There is no need to put yourself in such danger. Why not keep yourself safe since you are soon to go to the capital Akardi? Armstrong also agreed. I agree with the Count. If anything happens to you... Arden glanced at him. Who do you think I am? Armstrong fell silent without a word. Arden spoke sternly. When the Forest of Shadows is cleared, I intend to send Joshua to the Royal Academy in the capital. Whatever doubts you may have, Joshua's talent is an undeniable truth. According to the rules of the Agnes family, he is also granted a fair opportunity. Chiffin ground his teeth. Damn it. If that brat's talent is honed at the Royal Academy, then no one will be able to touch him. Lord Babel could be pushed out of the competition for succession. I need to think of a reason to keep him here. No, I need to eliminate him. Joshua proposed to Arden. Duke, I have a request, he replied. What is it? Joshua firmly said, I want to go to the capital with my mother. Chiffin quickly objected, saying that it is not possible. Duchess Venus will not allow you to bring Lucia to the capital. Joshua immediately asked, what will happen if she does not allow it? Are you saying the Duke needs her permission for such a trivial matter? Everyone stared at Chiffin. He grew tense. If I agree, it will sound like I am disrespecting the Duke. I cannot let this pass. I am being played around by that brat. Chiffin spoke. Duke, I am only worried that if this matter spreads, you and Lucia will be affected. Arden brushed it aside. Forget about that. I allow you to bring Lucia. Joshua respectfully bowed. Thank you. Arden pondered. As I thought, he is no ordinary child. How long has it been since I last felt this way? Even Babel did not give me this feeling. He spoke sternly. Does anyone else object to this matter? Everyone agreed. As you wish, as you wish, as you wish, as you wish. Chiffin could only bow his head. As you wish. Arden stood up. Then that matter was settled. And Armstrong, come to my chambers and bring the knights you dispatched once you finish arranging the report about the Pontier family. He bowed. Understood. Arden ordered. Joshua, you will come too. Joshua replied. Yes, I understand. Babel suddenly pushed the door open. Please wait a moment. Chiffin stammered as he looked at him. Young Master Babel. Babel cautiously knelt. Babel von Agnes greeted the Duke. Arden sternly replied. So you finally decided to show up, after all this time in hiding. Babel slowly and sincerely said, I am sorry, I needed time to reflect on myself. Arden judged silently. Babel has changed too. His energy has shifted. This feeling is not bad either. He calmly looked at him. Very well. You must have a reason for being here. What is it? Babel glanced at Joshua. Joshua. He gently smiled. Do you have something to say to me? Chiffin angrily shouted, Young Master Joshua, young Master Babel is of higher rank than you, so show some respect. Joshua glanced at him. Joshua spoke up. I have noticed it for a long time, yet you behave as if you are Babel's subordinate. The only master you should serve is Duke Agnes. Chiffin looked horrified. Certainly there has always been a boundary between knight and lord. No matter how talented a knight is, if he crosses that boundary he will be expelled. He angrily shouted, "What are you saying? I was only helping you correct your etiquette." Joshua calmly explained, "Anyone can stand at the top if they have skill. If you want to express your opinion, you should improve your skills more. Is that not the rule of the ducal family?" Babel reassured Chiffin. "I am fine, Lord Chiffin. He is not wrong," he stammered, looking at him. However, normally, Arden praised Babel. This arrogance and boasting is different from before. At last the gaze of a knight appears. Babel stared at Joshua. "Improve yourself. I will accept his opinion myself. I will rise higher. Do not think I will despair and give up." Joshua thought inwardly. His gaze has completely changed after a while. He smiled. "I know." Babel turned to Arden. "Duke." He immediately responded. "Speak," he continued. "From now on I will officially renounce the inheritance of the Agnes family." Everyone was astonished. "Renounce the inheritance? You will renounce it yourself, young Master Babel." Arden stared at him. "Have you lost confidence because of your younger brother's talent?" Babel immediately denied it. "No, I only want to follow the laws of the Agnes house and compete honestly and fairly." Arden pondered. "I will think about it." Babel respectfully bowed. "Thank you very much." Arden turned his back and left. The meeting ended here. He thought ahead. He smiled inwardly. Though slow change will surely come. I wonder how things will change, but I think it is not bad. In Lady Venus's room she sat by a glass of wine. She sneered. Babel renounced the inheritance, and that brat will take Lucia to the capital. Chiffin bowed respectfully. "Yes. All of that is true." Venus angrily threw the wine bottle to the ground. He hurried to stop her. "Please calm down." Venus angrily held her head. "I lost my composure when I heard that. My uncle's plan has failed. And about this, do you know Babel is everything to me?" Chiffin hurriedly comforted. "Yes, of course, I was there. I should have stopped him by any means." "I am sorry," Venus countered. "No, Chiffin. I know better than anyone that Babel is as stubborn as his father. You did nothing wrong. However, if that brat does anything to affect Babel's power, then I will tell all these secrets to my husband." Chiffin quickly promised. "Please do not worry about that. Such a thing will not happen again." Venus looked at him. "Very well. About that child. Does he have any plans?" He replied respectfully. "The Duke intends to send him to Lock Palace." Venus asked suspiciously. "Lock Palace? It is located in the far north and takes 2 days to reach." Chiffin explained. "Monsters from the Forest of Shadows are running rampant. So the Duke plans to go and eliminate them himself," she responded. "Then the brat and Lucia will depart for the capital after they return." Chiffin thought to himself, "Very likely." She schemed as she looked at him. "Then before departure ask them if they would like to have a meal with me, because it might be their first and last meeting." The army marched in strict formation. Kane absent-mindedly watched the soldiers. The knights here to assess mana were also leaving today. A soldier shouted, "Hey, focus. We are also departing today." He immediately replied, "Yes, understood." The shouts continued without stop. "Hey, help here." A soldier hurriedly responded, "I will come immediately." Then there was a scolding. "Why did you leave the luggage there?" Another soldier stammered, Here. There were continuous urgings, "Get your ass to work. We cannot afford to fall behind." Joshua calmly walked forward. He stared at the ring on his hand, a magical ring. He recalled Arden's words, "We will go to Akardi right after defeating the monsters in the Shadow Forest. Before that, you must abandon the Agnes family." Joshua exclaimed in surprise, "What?" Arden took out a box. "Instead, I will give you a gift. During a support for the magic tower, I received a magical ring as a token of thanks." Joshua thought to himself, "The ring of the master of the magic tower is one of the enchanted weapons created by him. It allows the user to equip armor immediately upon channeling mana into the ring." Arden explained, "You will know how to use it when you channel mana into it." He eagerly looked at him. "Isn't this supposed to be given only to the heir?" Arden immediately refuted, "Do not misunderstand me. I am only lending it to you because it was left in the warehouse. It is not everything." Joshua pressed him. "Is there another reason?" He replied, "The moment you use the ring, your whole body will be covered with a layer of armor containing mana. The armor bears the family crest. It will protect you from pests and help conceal your identity. I hate it most when others take what belongs to me. Moreover, you will be the heir of an anonymous noble family. Choose a suitable name for yourself." Joshua smiled, thinking, the reason for hiding my identity and giving me the ring must have a purpose. This is to tell me not to cause trouble for the Agnes family. It is easy to use for high-ranking people, like the Imperial Prince. I hate both of them. Arden called out to him. "Joshua," he quickly replied. "Yes," he calmly asked, "do you hate me?" Joshua thought, hate him? Actually, I am not sure. I never expected anything from the Duke. It was too sudden to see his departure in the Empire's civil war that will occur 10 years later. If I really think about it, he abandoned my mother and me, and because of that, my mother passed away. Because the times I met him in my past life were so few they were negligible, I have forgotten all resentment toward him." He smiled and caressed the ring. People often say time is a healer. Perhaps between us that relationship does not exist. Caesar suddenly appeared. "Is there something fun, young Master Joshua?" He suddenly realized. "Now I should call you Lord Joshua." "Right." Joshua glanced at him. "What do you mean?" Caesar said, "You will go to Akardi after completing the mission in the Shadow Forest." "Right. Come see me when you arrive in Akardi. I will surely help." Joshua wondered, "You will help me?" He immediately explained, "Yes, of course. The royal family can recommend knights that will protect you from other knights. They can become official knights without participating in the annual evaluation exam, and they will receive special benefits by being exempt from serving for 10 years. Furthermore, if Joshua wants, there is no problem with you using as many royal knights as you wish before leaving. Please understand that this offer is my goodwill toward you." Joshua looked at Caesar with hatred, that laugh mixed with deceit and hypocrisy, truly disgusting. If it weren't for the people behind him, I would have already driven a hole through his head and mouth with Lujet. However, I have to join the Royal Knights. To meet my close friend from the previous life, I need to join the Royal Knights and become a squad commander to infiltrate the Royal Secret Vault. My friend is sleeping there. But now, I need to deal with this matter." Joshua turned his back. "I will think about that. I am busy, so I will go." Balmung complained, if he were as polite as his skill, he could be promoted quickly. Caesar glanced at him. "Don't be like that. We should also return." "Balmung," he quickly replied. "Yes." Caesar silently resolved, "In the end, Joshua will fall into my hands anyway." He decisively walked away. Joshua smiled and went in the opposite direction. "Caesar, this time I will not be your puppet anymore. This time it will be your turn." The sound of galloping horses pounded the ground. Arden led the army straight ahead. Thanks to the leadership of Duke Agnes, the Shadow Forest expedition team was organized quickly. Everyone was strong. The members of the expedition were quite simple and led by the Empire's Duke. It included only one Blood Scarlet, a level 4 mage, Cyan, Araman the Duke's level 4 mage, and 100 others besides Babel and Joshua. Joshua rode his horse thinking, that Babel, why does he keep staring at me? Suddenly a loud shout echoed, "Everyone, stop, pay respects to the Duke." Robin shouted loudly, "Attention." At Lock Castle adjacent to the Shadow Forest, Arden hurriedly reined in his horse, calm. He greeted Robin. "It's been a while, Robin." Robin, former senior knight of the Duke, member of the Clover Knights, and someone who had served the Duke long ago, bowed his head, respectfully greeting the Duke. Arden spoke with unease. "I have always felt guilty toward you. I left you in this barren land after your retirement." Robin smiled and waved it off. "No, I am very honored to serve you even after retirement, and I believe I told you that I wanted to spend time with my family." Arden immediately replied, "Thank you for saying that." Beeg cheerfully stepped forward. "Oh, my Duke, you have finally arrived." Viscount Beeg, lord and relative of Venus, excitedly said, "I am extremely touched to see the Duke personally come to support us." Anna, the cherished daughter of Viscount Beeg, smiled brightly, respectfully greeting the Duke. Arden thought to himself, This is troublesome. I should have come to the forest immediately. Beeg angrily shouted, Robin, are you so old that you forgot? You must report to me immediately when the Duke arrives. Robin bowed his head. I am sorry, my lord. He resented the old man and said, I thought your skills would be better than your age. How will you take responsibility for the safety of this place? Arden quickly interrupted. Beeg, it seems you have adapted to this place. You seem to gain weight every time I meet you. He replied happily. Duke, I am sorry. It is not that. It is because you have taken such good care of me. Joshua pondered. What the hell? Is he stupid or just thick-faced? Beeg excitedly said, Oh my, young Master Babel is here too. You are even more handsome than before. Even I, who know nothing about swordsmanship, can feel your spirit. Babel smiled and replied, It has been quite a while, uncle. The old man laughed joyfully. It seems a master will soon be born in the Duke's family. And who is this? Chiffin immediately spoke. He is young Master Joshua, my Lord Viscount Beeg. Beeg asked in surprise, Young Master Joshua? She explained, He is the second son of the Duke. Beeg muttered, The second son. He turned back smiling at Arden. Forgive my rudeness. I suppose I must inquire again about what I heard. Since when did Lady Venus become pregnant with another child? Chiffin whispered, Viscount Beeg, he is not Lady Venus's child. The old man forced a smile. What? Truly surprising. I did not expect this. Then what noble blood does our young master possess? Chiffin spoke awkwardly. She does not come from a noble family. He replied harshly, Is that so? Beeg stared at Inside the castle, Beeg's critical voice echoed, That brat is filthy. After hearing it, everyone felt disheartened, and Arden sighed in exasperation. He spoke to remind them that greeting is enough. Is there any urgent matter to attend to? Beeg replied, It is nothing serious. We are preparing a feast. Why don't we rest a bit and— Arden frowned and cut him off. My knights are not weak. If needed, they have rested enough on the way here. He loudly asked his subordinates, Does anyone need rest? No one. All responded in unison, seriously, No, my lord. Pleased with the answer, Arden stepped forward. Then let's go. Beeg called after him, Duke Arden, I also want to go with you. Although I cannot help much in battle, I am a viscount. Should I just stand by and do nothing? I believe my knights and men think the same. The soldiers agreed loudly. Yes, we want to go with you. It is an honor to serve you. Duke. Arden silently observed carefully. He turned with curiosity. What will you do with Anna? Will you leave the girl alone? Beeg confidently replied, You need not worry. My daughter will be useful, albeit a little. Arden frowned. You want your child to undertake this dangerous journey. She bravely stepped forward. I also wish to go. My lord, please see this. Immediately after, Anna shouted and began casting magic. Streams of blue light emanated from her body. At that moment, a small spirit appeared, smiling at Anna. Armin, seeing this, exclaimed in shock, Is that a spirit? He laughed and said, Recently we discovered my daughter can summon spirits. Spirits are similar to magic, a type of power only the chosen can wield. In terms of numbers, spirit mages are even rarer than magic users. The empires possess only about 100 low-level spirit mages. Joshua pondered, I did not expect to see a spirit mage here. He looked at Babel, observing the change in his expression. Joshua thought, I do not know a spirit mage named Anna. But that child feels familiar. Have I met her before? Arden spoke. Very well. Then let's set out. However, the Blood Scarlet Knight will lead. The Lock soldiers will be at the rear. The others will take positions in the middle. Beeg acknowledged. Understood. Thank you very much, Duke. Afterwards, he stood and firmly commanded the soldiers. Then, let's go. Arden considered, if I have a spirit mage, it won't hurt. Babel turned to look at Anna, who was smiling sweetly. Joshua saw her and thought, since we will be going with her, I should consider this carefully. If she interferes with my plan, I will keep an eye on her. Suddenly, Beeg called him in a disdainful tone, Hey you. Beeg, with a dangerous expression, warned, I will be watching you. Elsewhere, at King Evelyn's throne, Marcus sighed. So that is what happened. He propped his chin and thought deeply with excitement. Interesting. So his talent is genuine. He even blocked Joker's attack and commanded a battle. Avergrant replied, Indeed. Marcus continued, Avergrant, what do you think? I want to hear your opinion as the Empire's great mage. He replied, As mentioned, it is difficult to gauge the boy's abilities, because knights and mages use mana differently at the core. He emphasized, I want a general opinion, how talented that boy is. Avergrant explained, without evidence, it is hard for me to explain. For example, compared to a royal knight. Marcus agreed, very well. He recounted, a few days ago, Lord Balmung and I, though we did not fight, if we had to duel one-on-one, I would not lose. Avergrant's eyes became fierce as he asserted. He assessed that seems reasonable, even if Balmung obtained his title at this age, and his skills surpass everyone else, it would be nothing if you were his opponent. He hummed. However, what I sense from Balmung and Joshua is different. Marcus sneered, Are you afraid you cannot defeat that boy Joshua? Avergrant replied with a stiff expression, Not exactly, but certainly there is a difference here. In the next 10 years or even sooner, changes may occur, but right now I cannot afford to lose. He smiled upon hearing this. I will ask you one more thing. He respectfully said, Please go ahead, my lord. Marcus proposed, If you and I fought one-on-one, what do you think would happen? After hearing this, Avergrant remained silent for a long moment, thinking carefully. The atmosphere between them became tense and awkward. Suddenly, Marcus burst into loud laughter, breaking the awkward tension. Truly interesting. It is really very interesting. I should not let others witness this. I should have verified it myself. Now that it has come to this, I will observe the boy myself. Immediately after, without waiting for him to answer, Marcus snapped his fingers. Instantly, Jacqueline appeared, bowing. You called, my lord king. He ordered, Jacqueline, can you keep that boy here for a while? He replied, the fourth prince has already prepared the plan as discussed. Marcus, hearing the report, furrowed his brow. Kaiser, Jacqueline reported, just now the royal knights received invitations from the fourth prince. Naturally the target will be Joshua Pawn Agnes. He propped his chin. An invitation is a clever approach. Although I understand the reason for using it, in reality, battalions 11 and 12 consist of people who do not trouble me. Reporting on the situation as it happened, he bowed. Yes, my lord king. I request permission to leave, Jacqueline respectfully requested. At this moment, Marcus laughed with delight. Joshua Van Agnes. With that talent, he will become perfect because of it. At the same time, in a forest bathed in blood-colored moonlight, a horde of monsters with bloodthirsty eyes roared and charged. Joshua stood at the center of the monster circle. His eyes flashed with seriousness as he murmured. Under the brilliant sunset, the sky dyed in shades of red and orange, was the campsite of the soldiers. Everyone was helping each other set up tents to rest. Joshua's group was spreading out a map to plan their strategy together. Beeg ran over calling, Duke Arden, why are we setting up camp here instead of moving further? We are in front of the Shadow Forest. If we stay in such an open space, we could be ambushed by monsters. Robin frowned. Only the Viscount seems unaware of what is happening. He cares about nothing but satisfying his own greed. Arden replied, Didn't you investigate this place before opening your mouth with those foolish words? Can you tell what is special about this forest just by looking at it? Beeg was surprised. What was so special about it? Arden said coldly, I am talking about the time when the monsters become aggressive. When night falls, the monsters will go to towns as if obsessed with something. Especially during the blood moon, the monsters become more vicious than usual. The more important issue is that even without the blood moon now, the time it takes for the monsters to reach towns shortens and they attack civilians. Night will come soon, in a situation where our abilities are reduced and the monsters grow fierce. There is no way for us to approach them first. Beeg laughed in admiration. Duke, you are as brilliant as expected. I would not have thought of that. I am very impressed by your insight. He replied coldly, If you understand, go set up camp. Beeg laughed loudly. Of course. Arden turned and said, You two also find a place to sleep. Both Joshua and Babel replied in unison. Yes, understood. He looked up and smiled kindly. Afterwards, Joshua followed the others into the forest to gather firewood. Someone said, "Young Master Joshua, I think this is enough." He replied, "I haven't collected enough yet. You go back first." The soldiers left calling back, "Understood. Please do not return too late." Immediately after observing them leave, Joshua dropped the firewood and began casting magic. He drew a staff imbued with dark energy, stood up, and started moving. He thought of the current opportunity. This is his only chance. Instantly, Joshua moved straight into the deep forest. He did not know that Beeg was secretly watching from behind. The old man smiled mysteriously as he carried out his sinister and obscure intentions. Elemental stones are born from primal power and also contain magical elements. Ancient mages called them elemental stones. They exist within elements like fire, wind, thunder, earth, and more. The stones exist because of these elements, yet only 5 elemental stones have appeared in the world so far, though that is a distant future until all 5 appear. Magical stones have power that can boost a mage from level 1 to level 3. They are coveted not only by mages but also by knights. Joshua's steps entered the darkness, accidentally stepping on a branch that caused a sound. He thought, if my memory is correct, one of the elemental stones is located deep within the shadow forest. Joshua muttered, "It's too dark here." He was determined, even just one elemental stone could help him control his power and prevent losing control. "I've been walking for nearly an hour. How long until I reach the center of the forest?" He felt he would get there after. The old man smiled mysteriously as he carried out his sinister and obscure intentions. Elemental stones are born from primal power and also contain magical elements. Ancient mages called them elemental stones. They exist within elements like fire, wind, thunder, earth, and more. The stones exist because of these elements, yet only 5 elemental stones have appeared in the world so far, though that is a distant future until all 5 appear. Magical stones have power that can boost a mage from level 1 to level 3. They are coveted not only by mages but also by knights. Joshua's steps entered the darkness, accidentally stepping on a branch that caused a sound. He thought, if my memory is correct, one of the elemental stones is located deep within the shadow forest. Joshua muttered, "It's too dark here." He was determined, even just one elemental stone could help him control his power and prevent losing control. "I've been walking for nearly an hour. How long until I reach the center of the forest?" He felt he would get there after passing through this area. Suddenly, a shout came from Joshua's location. He panicked. What was that? A gigantic monster appeared, making a savage sound. It paid no attention to Joshua and moved forward. He realized that it was a black goblin blocking the path into the forest. Black goblins can defeat most low-level mages. They say at least a B-rank knight is needed to fight one. But black goblins usually operate alone. If I can use that energy like last time, I can defeat it immediately. It will notice me when I move 10 meters within this range, so I will close the distance quickly and strike at its neck. Suddenly, the black goblin looked up at the night sky where the blood moon hung. It roared, echoing through the forest, while Joshua was closing the distance. He hesitated. Just one roar with so much pressure. I needed to finish it in a single strike. Suddenly, the black goblin turned its head and raised a fist toward Joshua, startling him. When it did, "I'll surely get hurt if I don't shrink myself." Joshua's face tensed. He quickly retreated as fast as possible to avoid its fierce attack. Joshua's steps stretched back, his teeth clenched. Seeing this, the black goblin immediately jumped high, shaking the ground beneath. He quickly ran, leaping from tree to tree. Joshua realized something was wrong and looked up at the sky, seeing the blood moon. "I would surely—" The black goblin, seeing his silhouette disappear, grew even angrier. Joshua hid in a tree, panting. He needed to erase all traces of himself as quickly as possible and wait for that foolish black goblin to pass. "I will use the technique from my friend in the previous life, Assassin's King." It's been quite a while, so I don't know if it will work. Instead of directing mana to a specific part of his body, he had to regulate it and spread it throughout his entire body, slowly, as if blending with the surrounding nature, controlling his breathing and forgetting everything around him. After finishing, Joshua opened his eyes and assessed his surroundings. At that moment, the black goblin appeared right next to him. It slipped past and moved forward, growling. Joshua exhaled in relief, standing up happily. It worked. Instantly, he took momentum and leaped from tree to tree, landing on the ground. Joshua thought, it affects my body quite a lot, but if I can maintain the mana, I will reach the center of the forest, where the elemental stone is. Suddenly, he jumped onto a tree, causing a loud noise. At the same time, the branch broke, and Joshua fell heavily to the ground. He painfully forced himself to sit up, realizing his body was injured, his back. Because of the fall, Joshua once again attracted the black goblin. He cursed and glared at it. Not just one monster, but a group of black goblins wielding weapons approached. Joshua realized the situation was unfavorable. I'm done for. The monsters stared at him with a drooling hunger. Yet, on the contrary, Joshua's face showed delight. Or perhaps this is actually a good thing. I want to try it. Immediately after, he was surrounded by a horde of black goblins. At the same time, Joshua lifted his staff overhead, creating gusts of wind. He cast magic, spear magic, stage 2, skill 2. The black goblin, eyes bloodshot with anger, slowly transformed into its primitive form. But very quickly, Joshua used a whirlwind strike that defeated many of them. It lay on the ground in pain, growling weakly, his face serious, sweat soaking his face from exhaustion. Immediately after that, Joshua's body sensed something wrong. He hurriedly planted his staff into the ground to steady himself. Joshua thought, I still thought I had completely mastered the stage 2 skill of spear magic. I guess I'm still not very proficient. It's not even a quarter of its true power. I suppose the child's body has its limits. But I cannot stop here. Judging by the direction the monsters are moving, they will encounter the knights in the camp. Time is the decisive factor. I need to find the elemental stone as quickly as possible and regroup with the knights. Over by the tents, everyone was bustling with their own tasks. One of them suddenly heard a strange noise. That person panicked when he saw the monsters and shouted, "This is an ambush." All the knights immediately became alarmed. Urgently, everyone to your positions. The monsters ambushed us. They began charging into battle. The black goblin hiding inside a tree observed the chaos of the camp and heard the shouts, "Someone injured, doctor! Form a line, block the monsters." A group of monsters hiding in the bushes watched and emitted savage sounds. The magic swords clashed violently. Babel rushed out to fight a small group of goblins. He had to face many of them. At the same time, one appeared behind him. With a single sword strike, Babel quickly dealt with it. Cain also stepped out ready to defend against the enemy. He moved like the wind, each foe cut down. Cain's speed caused Babel to stare in astonishment. He assessed, who is that? Is there such a talented person in the Bloodscar unit? Judging by skill, he is about C rank. There are over 100 like that. Suddenly a shout from behind drew their attention. A group of monsters that had been hiding now gradually revealed themselves with ferocity. The knights trembled. Damn. They must number at least over 1,000. They are too many, we need to retreat. Chiffin stepped forward from behind shouting, "Quiet! I will punish anyone who dares to step out of this camp." The two others panicked. "Commander," he ordered, "the Bloodscar Knights form a line." Preparing for battle, Chiffin's eyes blazed as he boldly declared. Immediately, all the knights gathered and formed a neat line. Opposite them, the monster army arranged in formation as well. Both sides charged at each other, creating a chaotic clash. Babel quickly immersed himself in the fight, defeating monsters one by one. Cain assisted, fighting with all his strength. Chiffin led the front, eliminating each black goblin. Very quickly, chaos erupted from the flurry of swords and magic strikes. He paused for a moment, his body soaked in exhaustion. Chiffin wearily reported, "They show no signs of stopping. It's beyond what I imagined." He had predicted the blood moon would occur tomorrow night, but it happened today. Because of the red moon's influence, the goblins grew stronger and uncontrollable. Suddenly, he heard thunderous roars. A monster appeared right before him, its body transforming. Chiffin cursed, at a time like this, with my mind in turmoil, I'm the only one here at B rank or above. Whether I can defeat it depends solely on me. Instantly, he charged, swinging his sword toward it, shouting, I will split you in two. But at the same moment, the monster raised its giant staff. In an instant, with a single strike, Chiffin was struck down, flying through the air and leaving a long trail across the ground. Babel, witnessing everything, was stunned and called out, Commander Chiffin. At that moment, the knights of the battalion panicked and fled, shouting, the black goblins are coming, run. Terrified, they feared being torn apart if caught. The number of goblins showed no decrease as they retreated. Chiffin, body exhausted, spoke, why is this happening? Has it become faster because of the blood moon? This is terrible. Arden stepped forward from a distance, advising, a knight must never lose composure in any situation. Chiffin turned and called, Duke Arden. He declared loudly, I will take care of this from now on. Immediately, Arden advanced with steady steps. He surveyed the uncontrollable monsters and their overwhelming power. Arden's face, always cold, showed veins bulging as he tensed. Slowly, he drew his sword, closed his eyes, and calmly assessed the situation. A moment later, Arden opened his eyes, a blazing gaze flashing blue light. Alone, he fought countless monsters. With a single storm-like strike, the black goblins fell one after another. The sword in Arden's hand was solid and unyielding as stone. He glanced calmly at the distant monsters. Seeing their comrades eliminated, the remaining goblins trembled in fear. Chiffin, shocked and in awe, watched Arden. One strike and hundreds of monsters vanished. This is the power of a master, Duke Arden, one of the 9 stars of the Empire. In the tense space, dust billowed thickly. His footsteps slowly moved forward. His proud figure strode over the shattered corpses on the ground of Joshua in a dignified manner. He slowly approached the deep pit, then quietly looked down, causing his whole body to tremble with fear. His face smeared with scabbed wounds and bloodstains. Painfully, he slowly spoke, Bronto. Right in front of Joshua was a pitch-black pit that seemed to want to swallow everything. Fear continuously formed when looking at its hideous appearance. Immediately after, he decisively used his sharp sword to smash part of that cave, causing the surrounding space to drown in a patch of blinding light. At the same time, located in a secluded cave area with the blood moon shining down, highlighting the lonely figure of Agnes standing silently in the valley. With the angular jaw and elegant face of a gentleman, Arden was looking ahead with keen eyes. At the same time, Babel's glossy eyes and trembling whole body looked at Arden as if terrified of something. Old Beeg chuckled with a bloated face, mocking and teasing. That person is your father, Arden van Agnes. I am sure you can do the same because you inherited his blood. His eyes watched Babel with a scheming and sinister thought. I suppose he is still a child. No matter how talented he is, this is certainly the first time he has experienced such things, and this can be understood. Now I should think about him. Being so absorbed in thought, he forgot Babel. Turning his head to look around and not seeing him, he hurriedly ran clumsily, shouting, Commander Chiffin, where is that boy? Chiffin wondered, that boy? He anxiously replied, the son of the concubine named Joshua or something. Chiffin shook his head in denial and said to him, perhaps he fled to survive. He said, ah, you say? I just noticed. I have not seen him. No wonder, he is garbage. Over here, the soldiers were still gossiping noisily. You remind me, and I just noticed I have not seen him for a while. What? Did he really run away? Is he not too different from young Master Babel? Truly shameful for someone inheriting the Duke's noble blood. Suddenly, Arden's harsh shout rang out, what are you doing? The battle is not over. At that moment, the soldiers decisively drew their swords, with an explosive surge of emotion, the fierceness evident on their faces. The sharp sword drawn by Babel emitted dazzling light, spreading throughout the chaotic space. He, with a proud demeanor, unhesitatingly ran toward the soldiers with his sword in hand and spoke, "For the honor of Agnes." The soldiers also decisively drew their swords after Babel's command, faces cold as they looked at the monsters. Babel spoke, "The Duke is with us." The monsters ran while looking back bewilderedly, eyes terrified at the relentless pursuit of Babel and the soldiers behind them. Royd sneered contemptuously, looking at them running with their tails between their legs. "We will make sure you never leave the forest again." At the moment of preparing for battle, suddenly the monsters were unexpectedly flung into the sky, under the astonished eyes of the soldiers. They stood bewildered. What was happening? Then hurriedly moved away from that place. The stomping footsteps that shook the earth of the black goblins appeared from nowhere. Faces distorted with sharp fangs, roaring with fury to the extreme. The soldiers quickly fled, shouting loudly to announce, "Black goblins, run!" The black goblins decisively flew forward, then stretched out their pale black hands, reaching to cling onto the soldiers. Royd resolutely raised his sharp sword to block the attack of the black goblins. They were rampaging wildly, causing the ley lines of the forest to tremble. Suddenly, a loud voice rose up. "Do not retreat, confront them." Chiffin's face full of wounds clenched his teeth, thinking, "I thought we could sweep them easily, but this is a swarm of goblins. This atmosphere is—" At that moment, the sky produced a blinding light, causing even the fat black goblins to look up in daze. At the moment they were bewildered as to why thunder and lightning appeared, Joshua decisively struck the iron staff straight into the head of a black goblin. Immediately after, a fierce lightning sweep cleared the battlefield. Joshua successfully felled the black goblin, which collapsed to the ground in pain. This left Chiffin and Beeg mouths agape in astonishment. Arden silently observed the situation unfolding before him, his brows slightly furrowed. Joshua's foot landed on the ground with decisive, powerful momentum. They were amazed at Joshua's bold bearing. "Young Master Joshua." Chiffin's face broke into cold sweat in horror, thinking to himself, he felled a black goblin twice as strong under the blood moon with a single strike. Even the fierce black goblin writhing on the ground furrowed its brow. "See rank Joshua." The portly Beeg pointed at Joshua, then shouted, "Impossible! What was that just now? What trick did you use? Did that vermin of a house appear at the right moment after fleeing?" "Yes, that is impossible, certainly impossible. The Duke was the one who should have felled it with a single blow. What are you doing? Lock Knights, support the Duke immediately." The soldiers muttered apprehensively, as expected, "It's a coincidence." No matter how talented young Master Joshua is, while he is still only a C-rank knight, he cannot defeat a black goblin that even a B-rank knight struggles with. We should use this as motivation to eliminate the monsters. Everyone, support the Duke. Meanwhile, Joshua curled the corner of his mouth into a forced smile. "I am tired of always being overlooked. It really hurts my pride. Then I will give you all a little surprise. Perhaps I will not remain standing after using it. Anyway, that monster will save me." The soldiers looked at the black goblins charging madly, voices full of fear. Even a single black goblin is hard to deal with. But now it is a swarm. What should we do? Joshua gripped the iron staff tightly in his hand, shouted loudly to warn everyone, "Run if you do not want it to catch you." Royd stared in astonishment. "Young Master Joshua." At that moment, Joshua unleashed his signature weapon. A dazzling light filled the space. He thought, "I have been able to use part of Bronto's power, but I will be wounded afterward, and I do not know if my body can withstand this power." And immediately after, he decisively used his power, soaring straight forward to attack the black goblins. He generated a surge of lightning, illuminating a section of space with blinding light, everything sinking into extreme tension. The tremendous force of power created by the lightning seemed like a pit ready to swallow the goblins whole. A few seconds later, several black goblins had completely collapsed onto the ground in agony. They screamed in pain, faces twisted. His entire body trembled as he landed on the ground, panting heavily, exhausted, as if his energy had been depleted. Beeg dropped to his knees with a stunned expression. sweat pouring down his face, unable to believe what had just happened. Impossible. The Duke's soldiers were also astonished, murmuring, "Young Master Joshua really defeated the Black Goblins." The skin of the Black Goblins had not even been scratched by the strikes of a B-rank knight. This is truly a skill of a C-rank knight. No, before this, or as if I had never heard of mana having elemental attributes before. Perhaps Joshua is an unrivaled knight. The comrades were astonished. An unrivaled knight. Meanwhile, Duke Agnes was still watching him closely, anxiously thinking, can he endure after doing that? Surely he does not want to show any weakness. Armin smiled. Truly impressive. No wonder the Duke had high expectations of him. Arden spoke. What do you think of him, Armin? He replied, I am not certain about the ranks among the knights, but as a magician, I can see that he is a third-rank mage and possibly an unrivaled person. He is a monster with enough talent to change the country. No, the entire history of the world. We can understand that being unrivaled is a gift from God that only a few can wield. The ability to use two types of magic at once through magical techniques without interruption. He added, he can fulfill your long-held dreams. Duke Arden spoke, I understand your thoughts. As soon as he finished speaking, Arden disappeared, leaving him stunned. At this moment, his face was full of exhaustion, aware that his energy had been greatly depleted. This is his limit. He slowly closed his eyelids, shutting his eyes wearily. The fat black goblin continued to roar in pain, preparing to swing its massive fist down straight onto his small body. At this critical moment, Arden appeared and struck to block the goblin's attack. Immediately after, Arden embraced Joshua's fragile body, the hug at this moment like a warm medicine. He leaned tiredly against Arden's chest, unconsciously curling the corners of his mouth in satisfaction. The sounds of bombardment, accompanied by blinding light across the space, seemed to be engulfed by Arden's frenzy toward the black goblins. Arden's muscular body held the small Joshua tightly while fighting fiercely. Joshua looked up at Arden with admiration. Not bad at all. Deep in his gaze was a face full of Arden's courage and warm affection. Those eyes slowly closed their lids, as if that face was gradually fading. The scene shifted to a space filled with screams of agony. It was a firestorm. Help me, I cannot breathe. His eyelids slowly opened, and the space before him was engulfed in raging flames. He froze in shock. The territory of Duke Agnes. What is this? All around were piercing cries of pain, buildings about to collapse. Get out of here quickly. Help me. Please save me. He felt himself observing the Duke's territory with his soul flying above. This is a dream. He clenched his teeth, furrowed his brows, and whispered, this is too real to be a dream. Suddenly, he saw below the footsteps of a large figure stepping out of the flames. Joshua stared at the familiar sword in that person's hand, Duke Agnes. But as the face gradually emerged from the flames, he was shocked. Wait, isn't that Babel? Could this be when the territory of Duke Agnes is obliterated? Could this be something that will happen 10 years from now? How? This is a special dream. I am having a prophetic dream because of Bronto's power. If it is an elemental stone, then it is very likely that even the great magicians of the tower cannot fully discover the potential of these stones. At that moment, a cold wind blew across him. Joshua panicked. What is this wind? And that was the spiritual power of Babel awakening, all sources of light radiating wildly through the burning space. He landed lightly on the ground with defiance, the sharp sword tightly gripped in his hand. Immediately after, a female voice spoke, and they conversed in a unique language. Anna spoke to him in a language only they could understand. He froze when he saw the woman's face, Annabelle Grace, and the high-ranking spirit, Cillian. Although I do not remember anything about Anna, he thought, I am certain of one thing after seeing Cillian. Something must have happened between Duke Agnes and Anna. Wait, and if she is here, truly, if Annabelle Grace is a master, then that person must also be here. Babel shouted loudly in their unique language. Joshua cursed in frustration. I cannot hear what they are saying. I guess they are using silence or something. This is so frustrating. He looked below. and they were still communicating with each other in their distinctive language. It seemed that Babel was conversing with a man standing there, his face obscured by a gloomy smoke. Joshua flew to where they stood, calculating in his mind. Although he could not see the face or hear the voice, he was certain it was him. Suddenly, as he got closer, Babel's trembling shout rang out, "Be silent," a phrase that tore through the current silence. He held the sword in his hand with a furious, murderous expression, saying, "Do you think you can make Duke Agnes kneel just because of a few hunting dogs?" The face of the man gradually became visible, a smirk forming on his lips as he said something. Suddenly, Cillian charged violently with a ferocious expression, as if to seize Babel. Babel angrily unleashed a tremendous energy, turning the space around him red-hot. The blotchy wounds on his face began to surface, pain reaching its extreme, gritting his teeth as he confronted Cillian's madness. He turned arrogantly to walk away, deliberately reminding Babel of something before leaving. His face lifted in disdain at Babel, and deep within that sinister smile, a scheme seemed to be brewing. Once the face was fully revealed, Joshua was horrified. "You, that bastard, Drasai, A.B." Suddenly, a beam of light opened, engulfing him entirely. Returning to reality, he awoke with eyes full of fear. Dracia Bel Grace. After everything happened so quickly in the strange prophetic dream, Joshua panted, exhausted from expending so much energy. He sighed, thinking that was certainly a prophetic dream rather than an ordinary one. He hurriedly got up, tossing the blanket aside, frantically searching, and more importantly, wondering how much time had passed. Suddenly, a sharp pain spread through his abdomen, and Joshua clutched his stomach, groaning quietly. He raised his trembling arm, exclaiming in astonishment, "Could it be that my body still hasn't fully adapted to it? Although I have surpassed the first stage of the magic staff and have entered the second stage, it is still only at the highest level of a C-rank knight. To fully unleash the power of the magic staff and fight the monsters, I must start at around a B-rank knight level. It might be thanks to Bronto's lightning attribute, and above all, if the prophetic dream is another power that Bronto possesses, then I think I need to learn more about the elemental stones." On this day, in the room, the voice of Duke Agnes echoed. "Is it attractive?" He looked over in shock. The Duke. Arden's deep voice rose. Although just a few hours ago, that blood-red moon seemed about to devour the entire world as it emitted a strange energy. Now, it radiates a cold and beautiful light. Joshua followed Arden's gaze and looked toward the light coming from outside the window, seeming to realize, Arden tilted his head and spoke softly. "As soon as we arrived in the duchy, we will head to Accardi immediately. As I have explained before, you will not go as Joshua von Agnes. Now you are merely the only child of Viscount Frederick's family, the family that has fallen. You are a noble struggling to restore your fallen family. That is your new identity." He nodded, a satisfied smile curling at the corner of his mouth. "I understand. If that is what is necessary, I am happy to comply, because nothing good comes from being scrutinized. What matters to me now is to regain my former strength." While he was thinking, the deep voice of Duke Agnes suddenly rose, and he looked over in shock. Arden spoke slowly. "I did not know that you talk in your sleep, but you mentioned a rather interesting name, Dracia Bel Grace. How did you know that cursed name?" Joshua froze in panic, his whole body stiff, as Arden mentioned that name, a madman who always attacks humans with overwhelming energy.